My name is Mr. McKinney. For those of you who don't know me, I am the founder of MT Performance and half of Holistic Disclosure.
Yes.
With my partner Jakob.
Yes, I'm the other half, even though people often don't know.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah, so we are hosting this event today to see what comes out of a live podcast version. I'm very excited to experience this today, and hopefully this will be one of many for the future. So,
And
yeah.
we have Stig. I mean, we have Stig, so...
Yeah, and to those of you who don't know who Stig is, Stig Severinsen is a Danish free diver, has several world records of, I don't know, I know one of them is a 22-minute breath hold, which is...
Insane.
Insane, yes. We're going to talk to him about that today, how we can achieve something like that, if it's even possible. Yeah. Let's give a warm welcome to Stig Severinsen.
Stig.
Good. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much.
Nice to have you here.
Back?
Yeah, this is actually the second time we are talking to each other. It was a fun one, the first one.
Indeed, yes.
So today we're going to talk a little bit more concentrated about breathworks and a lot of tools and exercises for the audience to try as well.
Yep.
That is the positive thing of being close together. Then we can really engage in whatever you preach. So maybe can you explain to people briefly, who are you?
Yes.
Briefly?
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Stig Severinsen. I'm Danish-born, Swedish mom, live around the world, been living for many years in different parts of the world, and I love nature, sports. I have a master's degree in biology and a PhD in medicine, so everything with science and nature really always has had my biggest passion and interest, and then sports, of course. I was in martial arts, and I've been a competitive swimmer all my life. And I was the judo champion a few years in a row, many years ago. And then free diving, which is basically holding your breath and diving deep or long distance or under ice or holding your breath in a static position, so not moving, or swimming in a swimming pool. There are many disciplines, but it's all about just taking a breath and then doing something. So and then many years ago, I developed, both Breatheology, this system of kind of interface between modern science and timeless wisdom, and then performance-based results in sports. I think it's a valid thing to use in also we talk about biohacking, right? So it's measuring, and so taking what's been used for thousands of years, which we know will work, and then now we can measure it, and then both with the performance and the scientific aspect validate that this is a good way to move forward. And then, of course, we can personalize the training now with all these gadgets and apps and so forth, which is kind of the biohacker element. But we'll get back to that. I would be bold and claim that freedivers are the first biohackers, but we can get back to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love doing breath work. That's basically it. So my approach is a little bit different because I have been so immersed, literally, in freediving, and I think there are so many wonderful aspects and benefits, not just to performance, but also to everyday health, regeneration, rehabilitation from holding your breath, for many reasons we can get deep into. So that is a big part of the breath work that I do and teach. Also the certification you mentioned, the Breatheology instructor program. Because I think if you want to know breath work and breathing, well, you need to also know the other side, which is not breathing. So kind of this Shakespearean to breathe or not to breathe, right? It's not enough just to know breathwork from breathing, inhaling, in my opinion.
How many facets of breathing are there? It's just 4, right? Isn't that what you say? The pause in between.
Oh yeah, I always teach and preach 4 phases. 4, yeah.
Can you
so inhale. Well, if we have some really deep, hardcore yoga people, you'll be, no, this is not the right way. So we can start with the pause, then to satisfy some of you. We start with the pause, phase 1, then we inhale. Preferably through the nose. Nose is for breathing, mouth is for eating. And then that second phase, and then third phase, after turning softly, you exhale. Or can be the mouth, it's fine. And then fourth and final phase, another pause. So it's like a square breathing, and then you can play around for all of your life with the ratio in between, and you can make the pause longer and shorter. And the way this breathing cycle is looking, or the ratios, will tell you everything about your mental state, your performance state, your health state. So if you're stressed or sick, you will have no pause. If you have a fever or you're running, there's also a stress. It's a self-selected stress, right? If you're running, you're stressing the body. So stress is not bad. In this modern day and age, it's like, ooh, stress is horrible. No, micro stressors like pushing the system, working with the system is what keeps us alive and healthy. If you don't work the system, it'll like a plant you're not watering or giving light, it's just gonna die away. So the way that the breathing is in you is also telling about your mental state, and we can learn a lot from both observing other people and helping them, guiding them, but also from modulating the way we breathe into releasing different chemical reactions in our body, different hormonal cascades, all the way down to on a cellular level, which is the kind of secret of yoga. Go really deep into your nervous system, but you do it from outside. You do it from the ratios of your breath work, and then you link it to your body and your mind. So this is why it's so powerful and easy for anyone to start with breath work, whereas psychology and therapy and a lot of the mindfulness, meditation, a lot of the things that go on inside are more difficult for most people to control with the mind. If it was easy, we would just say, I'm not stressed, and you would be happy all your life. I mean, if it were that simple.
So these pauses that you mentioned after an inhalation and exhalation, should that be a default part of our breathing? Because I guess if you ask most of the audience here, they will say they never make a pause. It's inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale.
People make a slight pause, but we need to pay more attention to it. I wrote a book. It's free. Many years ago. It's also on Amazon. I'm not selling anything, but I wrote a book called Træk vejret in Denmark, or you can find it in any bookstore. Gyldendal. Those of you in Denmark know it's the biggest publishing house in Denmark, Golden Valley. But it became a bestseller here, and it was published the 5th of May 2009. So it's been a long journey, and I've been to India, have backgrounds in that with my gurus there, and South American gurus, and been to Tibet, Nepal, Himalaya, Bhutan. So I have a deep interest in these timeless ancient wisdom philosophies. But the book, when I made it into English, I have it in 11 languages now translated. But in English, it's called Breatheology, The Art of Conscious Breathing. I don't know if anyone here heard about it or read the book. Maybe I can see a few hands if somebody read it. Yeah, there's a few people, but træk vejret in Danish, take a breath. It means how many are not speaking Danish here? A few people. Okay, quite a few. Okay, welcome. That's good. Well, we're making the podcast, so to reach the global audience with Jakob and Mats, we speak in English. But it's called Breatheology, which is my brand, my logo, my trademark. So it's like biology, which means the science of life or the learning. Logos is Greek for learning, knowledge, and bios is life. So breathology is like the science and knowledge and understanding and implementation of breathing. So the text or the title of the book is Breathology, The Art of Conscious Breathing. And I think that's the key. We're not conscious about how we breathe. We don't have a tradition in our modern, we can say, Western society. It's not wrong, I guess. But in a hectic world, in all of modern world, which could also be India or South America or Asia or Africa, we don't necessarily teach our kids how the body works. A lot of the work that you guys do. And we don't teach kids or grown-ups what these different breathing patterns can and will do, and how it affects your mind and your thinking and so forth. And the trick here for today, the first lesson maybe to learn, is to be aware of your breathing. So just sitting down, you don't need to read a book or my book or any book, but just sitting down or lying in your bed and just starting to connect with your breathing and analyze it. Maybe even film yourself or have somebody film you. We all have a camera these days, right? The phone. So filming yourself, it's best when you don't know you're being filmed right? Because then you sit and modulate it. So you put the phone somewhere, maybe at your office when you're working, and then you record yourself or have somebody record you. Then you will start to understand much more about how the breathing-mind connection is actually affecting you every day. And we don't have this built into our educational system or a health system that we actually use breathing with awareness. We know we're breathing. You all know. But do you know how many times you're breathing every day? That would be a good place to start, right? We don't know. You don't know. How many times are you breathing per day? Just guess. Okay, 8,000. Anybody else? Just guess. Huh? 13. 30. That's a very good guess. So again, so thank you for just guessing. It's between 25, 30,000 times. But the point is, even if it were 50 or 10,000 times, it is a lot of breathing, right? It's a lot of breathing. Maybe too much breathing, right? We're over breathing a lot. And just in brief, animals that live very long, they breathe very slowly, or they don't breathe much. Whales, big whales, blue whales, and turtles, just to mention a few, have a very long lifespan, 100+ years, 200 years, right? Just mentioning a few animals.
How much do they breathe?
They breathe very little because blue whales and big whales, they die.
Because they
Like a
don't-
few times, a few times
they
per
go
minute.
like,
Yeah.
no, they die for 20 minutes and then go out and breathe a little bit. And turtles also, but the point is the whale is a mammal. Seals the same. They're mammals. They are like us. They give milk to their babies. They need to go and breathe. They have lungs. You know, whale is not a fish. It's not a shark. So I'm just fascinated by, geeking out and nerding on how breathing is a part of our life and how we can actively take place in directing our life to better health, to better performance, to a maybe more mental resilience or stress resilience, if you want to call it that.
Think
Okay, so yeah.
also one of the most overlooked things in our lives, breathing. We had you and other people about breathing on the podcast, and it's almost like a medicine if you do it right, and you can control your whole body, your endocrine system. Everything is linked to your breathing.
Of
But
course, it's
physically-
it's the fuel of life. So yeah, it's a good place to start.
Physically, when you breathe correctly and you are aware, what happens in your body?
Well, basically everything becomes more balanced. So what happens if you don't breathe is maybe more important, then you will develop a deficient cardiovascular system, meaning your blood-heart connection. We have so many people, one of the highest causes of death in the modern world is stroke. So either a blood clot or some heart failure, or, a blood clot getting stuck in your brain, which then means the oxygen cannot come from the blood because it can't perfuse the brain, and then you die quickly.
I have a friend who he's a few years older than me, so pretty young. He's in normal shape, I guess. He randomly a few months ago got a blood clot in his brain, which is strange in the beginning. But they later found out that he had the sleep apnea, which means that several times per night he stops breathing. Do you think that the lack of oxygen that he gets to the brain could cause that blood clot?
Now we get into, of course, the interesting and also more challenging things, because it's more medical or condition. So I don't know exactly if there are any studies indicating a higher prevalence of stroke if you have sleep apnea, but I know that it's certainly not healthy to have these long pauses when it's not voluntarily. It's not something you're training for and you're not relaxing, and the body is struggling to breathe again. So sleep apnea, these sleeping pauses, you stop breathing during the night. And so basically what it also does is kind of makes you into a zombie, and you become very tired. You're lacking energy because you don't get your night's sleep, you don't restore. And that has a lot of cascading negative side effects on your everyday health, day and night. So, but what you can do, I think, and I've mentioned this several times, is that when you start working actively with your breathing, you can readjust the nervous system and the part of your brain that is regulating the breathing rhythm. So the respiratory center is sitting in the back here of your brain, and it's also where you control your pulse, the heart rate. and then the signals are running through the nervous system into your organs, into your heart, into your lungs, into your diaphragm. So I think by adjusting your breathing and working actively with it, that's the best favor you can do to yourself to stay healthy or not to fall ill. So it's like both things are important. And I think with these, whether it's 25 or 30,000 times you breathe a day, I look at it like it's such a beautiful invitation to do better and get to know your breathing. And like I said before, maybe one of the secrets of yoga is to go into a cellular level or a subcellular level, so into the cells, into the mitochondria, the little energy production machines. So in every cell you have some little machine in there, a little factory producing the ATP and all the energy. So your battery, basically, you have millions of them. And on that level, you can actually, with your breathing and your mind, go in and optimize the mitochondria, also from your diet and things like that, things you need for the electron transport chain to run and all this and that. But I think also from yoga that you have this ability to get in deep contact with your nervous system and train your breathing. I mean, one of the secrets of yoga is, of course, to go into that part of your nervous system that you don't regulate normally, the autonomous part of your nervous system. So your heart rate, the way you digest food, the way you recover after illness or after sports. If you're, doing a lot of sports, it's good to have faster recovery because then you can train more and harder the
But
next day.
how does that feel? Because to many people, including myself sometimes, when you do yoga, if you haven't done it before, you don't really know when you get into these states. Well, what are you looking for? I mean, are you imagining going into your mitochondria as you're meditating, or what is it that you're doing? Because yoga is highly spiritual as well.
Well, you can. It's a good question, but there'll be many indicators. For example, you will start to have a more glowing skin, so more radiant eyes,
Mm-hmm.
maybe more healthy teeth.
Mm-hmm.
So these are really strong indicators, that you're healthy, that you're oxygenated, and that your skin is, cleansing itself at a higher rate. But you'll also start to feel your digestion. Some people I often have worked with lose weight. So it's not just because you lose weight from breathing, which you will. It also burns fat, but it weighs something, and you release from
Toxins.
the toxins. Well, a lot of stuff comes out, but you also start when you become more aware of your breathing and how it affects you. It's kind of the part in yoga that it wants you to be connected to the every moment here and now. So that's like the secret of yoga. The deepest secret is to kind of be one with the moment and eventually enter flow or nirvana, samadhi, like the highest state of yoga, going through the chakras and going higher and higher from the more primitive, primordial, sexual, like more primitive chakras and going up through these energy centers, energy wheels, and then going to the highest, the crown chakra, and then kind of absolving or dissolving your ego and becoming one with every thing around you, nature. Pranayam. Prana means life force, and yama is regulating this life force. So breathing can be used to connect with nature and maybe even like some divinity or higher state, but also with your awareness. You can have like a super consciousness. And
how does that feel?
Well, from breathwork, I know you can go traveling, in time. You can go traveling to your past. You can go traveling out of your body and see yourself. You could also just call it imagery or visualization. It's not that you necessarily feel like you're another spirit leaving your body. It's not that necessarily like crazy journey and colors, but you can in your brain travel to so many places. But I've had an experience once where it was like. And we can discuss, of course, also in the Q&A later with people in the audience what you have felt, but like where all the gates were open. So I could go anywhere. I had that many times when I do my breath holding. I prepare, and either when I do my really dedicated breath workup, or the warm-up, or the breath holding session, then I can kind of reach and go anywhere I want. And it's very often described also in the yogic scriptures. But so there's no limit, there's no barrier between you and your surroundings.
What do you mean, like?
Yeah, like you can touch,
world?
you can go, you feel you can go anywhere, and you can move, and you can sense. And so one experience I had was in Bella Center. It's actually here in Copenhagen, many years ago, and that was like with all my all senses open, and you could feel who was behind you. You could see behind you.
Mhm.
Like everything was opened around you. Very, very
Strange.
very strange and very peaceful experience. And I was completely just like standing. It was just like
How would such a practice look like?
But it doesn't have to be this weird and stuff. I'm just saying you can have
No,
these
yeah, I mean-
experiences or like
Yeah, but
DMT or more psychedelic.
Is it like Wim
experiences.
Hof breathing, hyperventilation, breath
No,
holding?
no, this was absolutely with no breathing. I just trained very hard for some world records. I was just kind
Okay.
of in a everyday situation.
So that's like a flow state.
Yeah, exactly.
But you must get into some funky shit when you're holding your breath for after 15 minutes.
Not so much, yes, also, but it's more in my training. I get into some funky shit. You know, it's when we do some very hardcore training, and that is like super crazy hypercapnic training. I love hypercapnic training.
What's that?
So that is the hypercapnic is with a high load CO2.
Mhm.
So very high loads of CO2. And
That's Wim Hof. That's hyper.
No, Wim Hof.
No,
Wim
okay,
Hof
now
is
Wim-
hyperventilation.
Sorry.
And that's basically it, right?
Yeah, sorry.
So hyperventilation and push-ups, that's what I think the Wim Hof method is,
Yeah.
with all due respect. I'm not a Wim Hof instructor, I don't know, but that's what I think it is.
Yeah.
Doing some hyperventilation and jumping in the water and do some push-ups.
Yeah.
When I say hypercapnic training, it's, for example, we do some really hardcore training, which would, for example, something people can relate to is 16 times 50. Diving 50 meters,
Oh, wow.
16 times,
Okay.
or 8 or 12 or 20, as fast as you can underwater with as little pauses in between. So you sprint 50 meters. I'm just giving some examples how I train, right?
Mhm.
So never train alone underwater. Never hold your breath
Is that
underwater.
with the feet on?
That's with the. You can do it without, but you get more burst and
Mm.
power with the monofin.
Mhm.
It's dolphin tail I swim with, and then you sprint 50 meters. You're completely lactic acid out. Then you have, for example, 5 seconds to breathe and inhale and go again, and you do that 16 or 20 times. Then you
That
get
sounds
so wanked out, you're like that you get tunnel vision. I have a purple like vision, and it's a lot of things, changing in with your blood system, the pH.
That sounds
you get
almost-
so acidic, but no, it's tough, but it's also cool, to experience a different way of being a human being. But I do it, of course, for training reasons. I do it to be better to resist the CO2, the urge to breathe,
Yeah.
and have extremely high loads of CO2. I can go to almost 10%
Mhm.
of CO2, which is ridiculously high.
Mm.
And you do that, of course, when I do the long breath holds, the 20 plus minutes, you have to be able to store and tolerate extremely high levels of CO2. Because I don't know if the audience here know it, or audience, listening out somewhere in the world, but CO2 is the strongest driver of breathing.
Mm.
It's not low levels of oxygen. Even a lot of doctors, I think, get this wrong. It's not triggering you because you have low levels of oxygen that you need to breathe.
Mhm.
It's when you have very high CO2, you have chemoreceptors, you have different places in your body that is registering, oh my gosh, this level is dangerously high. You need to ventilate, meaning you need to blow out and then take some fresh air, which contains oxygen, 20.9% or 21 of the air, and then basically the rest is nitrogen, right? A little bit of CO2, but it's the oxygen you need. So your body is telling you to breathe, but that's with the CO2, and that's what we in freediving train, and that's what I train. We'll get much more into this with the military, with the elite, Olympian athletes I train. I do a lot of hypercapnic training with them. So hyperventilation per se is not like hypercapnic training because you rinse the CO2 out.
Okay.
You blow CO2 out. That's hyper. Hyper means a lot. Hyper means a lot or fast, and hypo means less or little.
Okay.
So hyper means more. You ventilate more than you usually would. So you blow out more CO2. And the reason why it's so dangerous for any system, I'm not just talking about Wim Hof, I'm just talking in general, hyperventilation and then holding your breath, is because when you usually would hit the alarm signal here, let's say it starts from 0 to 10, and then here you would really have the alarm ding, 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 and you must breathe now, or you're in danger. But when you blow out CO2, you move the alarm down here.
Mm.
So you have this gap. Sorry. We have to remember the
Yeah.
microphones up so we can hear it in the recording, also in the audience, of course. But you have this gap. This is the dangerous gap, right? The death gap, because the alarm will not ring until it's too late, because you have
So you can hold your breath for longer.
Well, how does
well, no,
that
you
happen?
think you can hold your breath longer, but then you run into the problem that you run out of oxygen, but you don't get the signal to breathe.
And
Well,
that's the
why you-
danger of
then you
methods like the Wim Hof.
then you black out underwater, and then you will drown, and then you will die.
Okay.
You don't die from drowning. I've drowned. It's fine.
You've drowned?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I have safety divers around me. You
Okay.
know, but yeah, but so we know what we're doing, but it's not a problem to drown. You're not dead when you're drowning, right? And you don't swallow water. It's not a wet drowning like you see in Baywatch, and they pump or with the fish
Okay.
coming out. No, it's a dry drowning. You usually drown, and you get a reflex that stops that like babies will block the throat, and then you don't take in any water. It's only when you die, so when you run out of oxygen after 6, 8, 10, 12 minutes, then your body relaxes and water enters the lungs. So usually when you find a drowned person, like who just drowned, it'll be a dry drowning. But they take you in for
Did
observation
your
in
heart
case you
stop?
got...
Well, what? I mean,
Excuse me?
what happened when you dry drowned?
You ran out of oxygen.
And did you have like a near-death experience or something?
Yeah, but
Okay, yeah,
not so much. But I mean, I'm not like a crazy guy. I'm
Okay.
totally a normal guy. But I like to push myself. But I'm just saying, in this example, like physiological, and also for safety reasons, that you don't get a warning signal, and that's why you black out. That's why we have all these, especially young men, dying around the world every day.
Yeah.
Because they train either for special forces or for CrossFit or for whatever, and they have seen something or heard something or whatever, and they think it's great, and they're immortal, of course, which meaning you can't die. You know, you're immortal, you're Superman. And the dangerous part is that you don't get this signal. You don't get this ding, 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 ding,
But that
ringing.
signal, can you explain when you do that hyperventilation, how does that lower that signal? And what is that
You
signal?
blow the CO2 out. It's very simple to
Okay, so
understand.
that's CO2.
The CO2 is the gas that triggers the alarm. Ding. You have a chemoreceptor
Okay.
that measures like temperature. So
Wow.
instead of temperature, it's like you're overheating. The car alarm goes. Engine is too hot. Stop the car. Wait till the oil cools down.
Okay.
Then you can continue. Here, your body is just with CO2. It's measuring the CO2, and so there are two things in it. Why we really need to talk about these things also. It's not just like, oh, Wim Hof, but of course now there's a lot of things, if you follow it out there. Like I said, I'm not a Wim Hof instructor. I think it's great that there's so many people inspired to do breath work in any shape or form. I
Yeah,
don't care
for
how you
sure.
do it, as long as you do it safely. And also that you inspire people to do the cold plunge and ice water. We know it's healthy. We've done it for 10,000 years in Europe, right?
Yep.
And especially in Scandinavia with sauna and cold water, cold water. And I like the ice diving, we can get back to that. I beat the Wim Hof record 25 years ago
Take that.
for the first time. No, but the ice diving in Speedos,
Yeah, I saw it. It's cool with the... Yeah, I saw that.
Tell us about it.
First
Beautiful.
in Denmark and then in Greenland. Yeah, but I just want to finish this. So with the hyperventilation, we need to educate people also. It's great that we do breath work and we're conscious and we're aware and we push the limits and we see purple things and near-death experience or whatever. But we need to do it safely and with a safety team around us and be intelligent about it. So we also it's our responsibility. I lost my best friend, 6th of August, 2012. We have lost many friends in freediving, solo freediving, along this journey. So I'm very, very, it's a big mission in my life to keep people safe, and especially the younger generation are young people, because they are like, it's a way of being alive, which is great. You think you can do anything in life. But then if you don't know that it's dangerous, like I have still people telling me, yeah, but then when I'm really tired, I'm really feeling I need to breathe, I'll just come up quickly. That's not how it happens. First of all, if you go up quickly, it's a long explanation scientifically, but the water pressure will drop too fast, kind of like standing up almost from your bed, so you'll get dizzy. So there are some physiology and physics laws, from gravity and stuff, but then also from the way that CO2 is affecting your blood and the way the acidity is changing and the way your mind is operating. It's very dangerous because you don't get the signal, and when you don't know what it should feel like, then you can kind of you sleep into death, basically.
So it actually makes you less aware of your breathing.
Well, it makes you less aware of that you need to breathe, yes. And that's the dangerous part. And really every day, and now I've just seen a few podcasts and stuff where there's some people, I don't know why, but I think they were big fans of Wim Hof apparently, and then probably some of these people in this room know it more, but then a few people like turned against the system, and there's some changes in the organization. I don't want to go into that because it's not, my problem, but the problem is that some kids are dying around the world. So now they have been looking at 10 or 12 deaths or something related to this training. So don't hold your breath alone underwater. Rule number one in any diving, also scuba diving, any type of with tanks, it's called scuba diving. So free diving is no equipment, don't do it. Scuba diving, don't dive alone, don't even swim alone, because you need someone to fish you out. Like I said, drowning is not going to kill you. It's when nobody's fishing you out, that's when you're dying.
I think many people here are interested in knowing about your crazy world record of 22 minutes breath hold, something like that, right? And I am too. Because how the fuck can you hold your breath for that long? And I also believe that you mentioned something about your lung volume last time, which is normally accepted to be a maximum of around 6-7 liters, something like that. Yours was 14.01 something, yeah.
14 plus, yeah. But that's with packing, so that's maybe all something we could do a little exercise for people to
exactly.
get, so they don't fall asleep out there.
But are you Superman, or can we all achieve that?
No, Superman taught me, but I'm not Superman.
Okay.
I don't know. No, but no, I was crowned the ultimate superhuman, if that's what you think, from the Discovery Channel. When I did the 22 minutes.
That counts.
So yeah, they crowned me the ultimate superhuman. No, I'm not superhuman, but I think we all do have superhuman abilities. And step one, baby step one, is to be aware that you have to unlock them somehow. Breathing is a good place to start.
Can we try it?
Yeah, we can. So this is kind of like the never dive alone underwater. Don't do this at home, or people listening. If you don't push yourself too much, basically. So I love to go to the extreme. I love to see what I can push myself to, and I love to move the barriers of mankind and measure it at the same time and stuff. The beautiful thing with freediving is you just measure it in time or depth or length. It's ridiculously simple, right? That's the only measurement you need.
Yeah.
So the more you can relax, the harder you train, the better results you get. But it's very easy to measure the result because it's just meters or seconds. It's beautifully simple. It's like stupid simple, right? You don't have a lot of factors it's very complicated to do it. But the measurement of it is simple. Anybody can understand it. 20 minutes, 22, 100 meters to 200, whatever you do. So with packing, people shouldn't do it too much. So my first rule is always baby steps, especially when you work with the nervous system, right? It's the most delicate system you have. It's the most complex system we know of in this universe. Your nervous system and the brain, the main computer, CNS, central nervous system. And we need to, like, curiously and lovingly and with responsibility work with the nervous system. So if we stress it too much, for whatever reason, put too much pressure on it, it has negative side effects. It cramps up, or you get trauma, or you get sick, or or even worse things can happen, right?
Yeah.
So you need to be gentle and respect the process. Things take time, but then over time you can develop incredible skills. So with the packing, which I'm happy to show, don't go crazy. Don't do too much, because your lung is wrapped in a small, actually two membranes, the pleura, very, very delicate membrane, like a plastic bag, like very, very thin. And it's connected with, there's some fluid in between. So there's like a vacuum connecting these two little bags to each other. And that is actually what you're breathing with. So there's a connection between your rib cage and your lungs, the soft part of your lungs. And then you have this membrane, this pleura. And there's a vacuum. So when you open the chest, right, when you lower the diaphragm and open the chest, the intercostal muscles, when you make your chest bigger, then these bags, these plastic bags around your lungs are expanding. That's how you're breathing. So the air comes in because of a vacuum. So both from the diaphragm and then the way you expand your chest. So it's not the lung. There's no muscle tissue in the lungs. The lungs are just sponges, right? So, and then when you pack, which is another, I would say, great misunderstanding from doctors and pulmonologists, so lung specialists, is that you can't increase your vital capacity, your lung volume. But with flexibility training, mobility training, diaphragmatic stretching, a lot of things we can do today. Of course, you can increase that space. And not only that, I think even more importantly, you can learn to utilize more of what you have. So if you have lung cancer or COPD, smoker's lungs, not because you necessarily smoke, but I think in 98% of the time that is the reason. But if you have some challenges or some illness, some reason, maybe you had a lung injury also in sports, or maybe you had one lung taken out. So you have to get the best out of what you have.
Yes.
Use what you got, to the best of your ability. So if let's say you have only one lung, to make it kind of simple to understand, then let's say you have 4 liters, so you have 8 liters lung volume. That's kind of like me or around that. So we have 4 liters now if I only have one lung, right? And by the way, how many segments on this lung here?
2, 3.
Yes, great. Yeah, 3. This is the right lung. I'm on opposite of you, right? So do you know how the lung looks? I mean, this is just basic stuff we should have known, in first grade. How many times do you breathe per day? How's your lung built? No, we learn kind of strange things and
But isn't the lung? Doesn't it look? If you really had to take it out,
there are
wouldn't it
3
look
segments.
like tree
there-
roots or something like that?
Yeah, it looks like a coral, but there are 3 segments inside. How many on the left lung?
5.
You really need to read my book. That's for sure.
1.
It's like page 1. No doctors or physiologists or 2. Thank you. Yes, there are 2. Why are there only 2? Yes, thank you.
wow.
The heart takes up space. So it's just so incredible how our body is not a perfect mirror. It's not balanced, you can say, and your breathing is different in the left and the right side, kind of like your brain is also looking a little bit different in left and right, and it actually switches the signals you get, and what you see is switching in the brain. But this asymmetrical aspect of your anatomy is just interesting. I love biology, like I said. So, but we should know this about our body.
Yeah.
Of course, we know, so many other things about our shoe size and our height, but we should know what's inside, like the breathing, the engine, the pump, the heart, and the lungs, the most important organs we have linked to the brain. We should know a little bit more about how they look, but also how they work, how they operate. So anyways, let's do less talking and more breathing.
Okay.
But not too much breathing. No hyperventilation. No, so you all sit up straight. We can do the first exercise. And then, again, baby steps. Don't overpack, because you can break or blow this membrane. You can actually tear it, or you can tear your intercostal muscles. These little rubber bands, these little muscles here between your rib cage. You can also have a little tear. So you're not going to die, but it's painful. And you have 2 different types, right? You have the muscles that you breathe with when you open, right? You expand, and then you exhale. Especially in sports, you use those. So you're pumping, right? So those muscles, antagonistic muscles, they go in different directions. So with packing, you fill your lungs as much as you can, and I'll show you how to do it correctly. But then after that, you put more air in, right? Like a bicycle, a pump. But you use your tongue and your mouth as a piston, and then you have to open and close to the lungs at the right time, like it's a special technique. And all of you can do it. And all of you, where you're at home somewhere, all of you can do it, but maybe not today, right? Maybe like Ujjayi breathing, everybody's not just going to do it the right way with the nose, the right.
Are there any precautions? Some people shouldn't do it, maybe?
No, I mean, I'm not that, now you have to with the American audience and stuff, like everything is, disclaimer, call your doctor before you do anything, before you walk out the door. But I'm kind of a cool guy, but of course, if you have some medical condition, talk with your doctor. Not that he can give you any damn advice, you had this and that. He doesn't know what lung packing is.
We're not covering it.
But ask them, and then, you can't blame us for whatever happens.
Exactly.
So, but of course, if you have some condition, so you had, like your friend, there's some issues with the cardiovascular system, or you had stroke to the brain, or you're compromised in some way, then you wouldn't do all crazy stuff Anyways, you wouldn't go
Makes
boxing
sense.
crazy. You wouldn't go hiking a hard mountain if you're just recovering from some illness, right? So respect your body and train from where you are. Anyways, it looks like this. You breathe in with your nose. As I said before, the nose is for breathing, the mouth is for eating. For many, many reasons we can get into later. I'm happy to discuss, or we can have the Q&A. But breathe in with your nose and then use the diaphragm to get as much air in. And when you sit up straight, you open the chest. So you don't sit and hunch your back. You don't squeeze the heart. So sit up like this, but not too much, like just normal, straight, proud position, posture. And then you breathe into your belly, and then you see if you can get the air up to the part of your diaphragm here, where you kind of go into the lower part of the rib cage, then go into the middle chest, and then up to the upper chest. But let's not go all the way to the clavicular bones. There's no reason or need to take in like crazy much. Then what you do after that, when you can't get any more air, you use the muscles and the diaphragm. Then you can take a little last sip. It's actually 500 ml, depending on your throat and how much you can take in. So that's half a liter. And then you start packing. And some of you will feel it, that you're getting more and more tight, like a bicycle tube, like a balloon. But some of you won't feel it. It's just because you haven't gotten the right technique today, but you can all do it. There's nothing wrong with you, but it'll take maybe a week or two. It's kind of like biking, right? You can't do it the first time if you're a child, but then suddenly you can do it, and then you never forget it again. So it looks like this. Then you take, that's half a liter. Then you coordinate with tongue and open and closing to the lungs. It's like eating air. It's also called carp in French, like the carp, the fish.
That is like a balloon.
Yeah.
How many liters of oxygen did you get in there?
Air.
Air? Yeah, sorry.
Air. But
Sorry.
there's oxygen in the air, but
And nitrogen.
my lungs are around 8.5, but I'm not trained, I'm not flexible now, so I'm probably at 7.5, whatever. So I put in about 1.5 liters, maybe almost 2 liters extra. So this was about 10 liters.
Mm-hmm.
But it depends, because you also have to calculate with the residual volume, so you have to take all of it into consideration. So maybe I was 11 liters now, just to give you an idea.
So what happens on a physiological level when you do this?
Well, first of all, you put a lot more pressure. The lung pressure is elevated, so you need to train it to be able to resist and also stay relaxed at the same time. That's the trick in freediving, right? Or any sport. You want to be relaxed in your sport, but you also want to have power in your muscles. So it's a fine dynamic. Like what's the balance? If you're too stiff or too tight or too stressed, you're burning more oxygen than if you were just relaxed and had half a liter less. So it's always like anything, in life, it's a fine balance.
So this enables you to hold your breath for longer time.
Yeah, because I have a bigger tank.
Yeah.
So I have a bigger tank in the engine, and then I can put more air with oxygen inside.
But from my perspective, if I did that, I would feel more stressed, let's say underwater or whatever I used it for, because of this internal pressure.
Yeah, but this is what you get used to after years and years and years and years of
So you're
doing it.
training your tank.
So I totally don't feel it when I go down. I close my eyes, I go into the Zen state, I go somewhere else, and I don't feel anything in my body. I don't, it's like I'm floating. It's absolutely like I'm sitting here when I'm training for it. So you're preconditioning yourself. So the receptors and the stress receptors, everything is getting fine-tuned and getting used to this. So you have a lot of also stretch receptors in the lungs and feedback to your breathing and all kinds of things. And when it's normalized, when you do it, that's when you can do it with ease. But then you also get more air inside your lungs, so you have a higher volume of air to buffer the CO2. So you also have benefits of higher oxygen, yes, but also higher buffer for the CO2 that is driving the breathing reflex. So there are many benefits. I would claim that all world records in freediving done since 2000 maybe, around when I started, have been done with packing, lung packing.
So if for people that aren't freedivers, this method on a day-to-day basis, when would it be good to you do this?
Well, it would be good to do, you can say for everyday people, maybe you don't need to pack. But for anyone who's interested in any athletic performance or like moving the lungs and getting them more flexible, pushing the diaphragm, but also, like I said, people with maybe one lung or some illness or post-COVID, some lung issues or challenges, or they've been compromised in some way. It is very good to work with what you have to use it better. So those would be great benefits. And in my book, I explain one place it was found many years ago, and it was used for quadriplegics. So people that have broken their neck or some accident or somehow don't have the ability to move their arms and legs. They also can't breathe if they're paralyzed, right? Quadriplegics. So if you're paralyzed, you can't breathe. So many years ago, you put them in an iron lung. There was a machine breathing for you, if you remember these big apparatus. Yeah. But with sipping, you can actually breathe with your tongue. So that's another thing that's fascinating. You can breathe only with your tongue, not your diaphragm, not your breathing muscles, the intercostal muscles. I think it's fascinating that you can breathe only with your tongue, right? So if you need to, and you're paralyzed, you can actually breathe with your tongue. And I know that from what I read in the literature and some of the medical articles that, for some people it was a big difference to be able to take a little bit of air, and also people I've worked with that have been compromised, having lung issues, because then you have a little air to maybe speak. Yes, you can say something or communicate with your spouse, your kids. You couldn't speak before if you have very little lung volume.
Yeah.
Or you can clear some mucus. You become more independent, and for us it seems very normal. But if you're really just you can't breathe or you can't clench your lungs, it's a new life you get.
It's such an important organ as well, because it's what kind of communicates with the rest of the world, right? You take in air from outside in, and it's so close to your heart. What does it do to your heart to be able to have these lungs? Does it pumps blood better?
Yes and no. It's good with the breath training in general to strengthen the heart and to get the right heart-lung axis balance, meaning that the way your heart is beating and it's getting stronger. So when you're training, your heart gets bigger, so the volume of blood it can pump out is bigger, so it can just operate at a slower pace. So that's why you have a low heart rate when you're in good shape, right? You're at 30, 35, 39. When you're not in good shape, you're at 50 or 60 or 80, right? Or beats per minute. But also, you can actually, which is also why lung packing is not recommended, especially not when you're standing or in water. If you don't know what you're doing, I'm saying do it with a certified instructor, professional instructor, either freediver or Breatheology certified, so you know what you're doing. But you can pack your lungs, which can then lead to first dizziness, but also you can lose consciousness, so blackout. So it's called a packing blackout. Now, this is also very fascinating, but also scary. So you can sit here on the chair or in water and start packing, and suddenly you faint because there is so much pressure that the blood doesn't run back. Either it doesn't run because of the pressure on the carotid artery to your brain, or the recirculation back to the lungs, from the lungs to the heart, is compressed so much that you don't feed your heart and then your system, your body, with the oxygenated blood.
Okay.
So it's kind of hardcore, so you need to, it's not dangerous. This is dangerous, but if you do it with respect and small steps, it's not dangerous. But these side effects are very dangerous.
Yeah, for sure.
You need to be aware of them. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to scare anyone.
Is there a way in which we can test our breathing capabilities?
Yeah, I think it's a great way to hold your breath, but that's like a breathing/mind measurement, right? If you can hold your breath longer, then you're more relaxed, you have more control, you did a better breathe up.
Are you aware of the BOLT score?
Yeah, I know from. I'm not certified with
Okay.
Patrick McEwen. I think he's also doing a fascinating work. That's more.
Can we
That's the
recap that
oxygen
real quick?
advantage. It's more a sports-based breathing style and measurement, which I think is great.
Mm.
But that is a good way to hold your breath and see how the CO2 is affecting you with the BOLT score.
Mm.
So yeah.
And the BOLT score, just for people that don't remember, it's where you, correct me if I'm wrong, you breathing normally, and then without taking a deep breath, you just hold your breath and see how long until you feel uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, it's simply until the first physiological response occur.
And then you have to
Because,
breathe again.
like you say, if you cross that barrier, it becomes mental.
Mhm.
So that's how good your mindset are
Yeah.
in terms of that.
So that's more CO2 tolerance you're measuring, but it's also linked to the way you breathe and the efficiency of your breathing. And when you do deep lung breathing, so when you do belly breathing, which is not the belly, but diaphragmatic breathing, so real yogic breathing, then again, like you asked me a long time ago, how does it affect you? It affects your whole nervous system in a positive way and your organs, because the heart and the lungs need to work in harmony. It needs to be balanced, this synchronicity between them, because the lungs are delivering the oxygen and the heart is pumping it out to the cells. So if there's a misalignment between it, then your body's not optimally functioning. It's not staying as healthy and resilient, and you can say your
And I think
immune system is not up to par. You're not giving yourself the best option or the best cards. You're not dealing yourself the best cards to stay super healthy.
And I think it will go back to how you feel it. It seems like it's something you're gonna feel over time as you do it. It's not something you're gonna do this 1 or 2 times and then you feel you have to do it for a month or 2
All your
months
life.
or all your life
But
or
you
6
have to
months
start.
until
you have
you start.
to start like 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. That's another question I get a lot. How much should I do it? So in the Breatheology book, we have a whole program written out, 4 phases, because I love 4. It's my lucky number. But also there are 4 phases, like I preach in a breathing cycle or breathing, square. And I think 4 is stable and beautiful, like the 4 clover of luck. And anyways. In the book, we give this description, like do these exercises here, and there are different ways you can put them in 4, like phase 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how simple I made it. And then I put minutes, because people always ask, how much should I train? So in the first one, I would put 1 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So you just make a program that's from 4 phases. Let's say you had 1 minute in each. It's a little, but that's 4 minutes training a day. That's much better than nothing.
Yeah.
And then you can add 2 minutes. That would be 8 minutes. And you could have 1 minute warm up for the first phase, and then 2 minutes, and then 2 and 5. That would be around 10 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's in that little range we're talking in the beginning for any of you. And I mean, you all look pretty healthy and probably have your own sports and your own passion. So to combine breath work on top of what you do is when you really start to see the benefits. So on the CrossFit you do, on the rowing, I just trained Renee Holton Poulsen, great gentleman who qualified for his 4th Olympics, and he had an amazing run. Didn't go exactly as he planned or hoped, dreamt of, but at least he qualified with any Team Denmark support and all this. His association kicked him out. They thought he was too old, 35, I think he is now. But even though he's the fastest rower, so it's kind of a strange story. But anyways, I contacted him and said, I will be happy to train you for free. I only take VIP clients now. I'm kind of retired. I don't do a lot of trainings. I love to do it, but I'm an old man. I'm 51, so I've done my deeds. I've done my work. So I have a few very good people in my team working, and I like to travel around and help people, do a few lectures. But I've done all this for so many years that I've just chosen a different path in life, more quiet and easy now. But with a guy like him, I'm like, this is amazing. This guy needs all the support he can get. And I thought it was cool that he was vulnerable and put a Kickstarter campaign on Facebook.
What did you do?
To get a Kickstarter is like where you raise money.
For what?
For the Olympics, to train. In France, Paris, flights, hotels, altitude training, all kinds of things you're doing when you're an Olympian athlete.
Yeah,
you train kind of, I would say more hardcore than any biohacker. You really try to dial in everything you can if you're going for an Olympic medal. So anyways, I love to train these guys, and we have just developed friendship, and he's a cool guy. But what I love with these people is also that when you tell them something they do it.
Yeah.
The military and athletes, the best, you know, they do exactly what you do. And then they come with the feedback next day. I tried this and this was amazing. This one I couldn't get it to work, so I tried this or I skipped this. And this is kind of what we're talking about with my training now, or with your training. Just start with a few minutes a day. It's better than nothing. Don't get so fixated on, is it 2 minutes, is it 4 minutes? Oh, Steve, what do I need to train? Is 10 minutes enough? Do whatever feels right for you. And if it feels good, and when you start to see the results, you're more flexible, you have more power, more endurance, you sleep better, your digestion is better, you lose weight, your skin is glowing, you're more happy, light mode, you know. Of course you do 15 minutes. You'd be an idiot not to do 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you should do 3 hours a day then breath work, but of course then you start to have a routine, which will be around 20, 30, 40 minutes, right? You all know that if you want to do any sport, any stretching or anything, you need to do a little bit of work.
Yeah. So maybe we should ask the audience, how many in here are aware of how you should breathe when you are resting home in your couch or doing whatever? Just like this default breathing state where you're rested. How many of you are perfectly aware of that? So like 10 people. So maybe we should raise some awareness of that.
Yeah.
Like you were starting the conversation by saying, film yourself. So what should we be aware of? Because this default state should be a default state. So something that we don't think about, right?
Yes.
So how do we start?
Well, the tricky thing is that when you want to have a good everyday, you know, optimized breathing in your nervous system, it needs to be default. It needs to be happening all the time, but you need to train it in order to get it aligned, right? It's the same with running. If you want to get in great shape, you need to run, but you're still in good shape at night, even though you're not running, right? So your cardiovascular system is strengthened.
Yeah.
Same with muscles. When you train and do, you know, push-ups or weightlifting, you get stronger and bigger. But that, you know, has a lot of positives, you know, benefits for your night's sleep, for the whole way your body and your mind is operating. Same with breathing. So that's why I'm saying you need these 5-10 minutes, whatever a day, to start practicing different exercises to actually get in more contact with your nervous system. And the beautiful thing about breathing is that you can direct and control your rhythm, which is something we usually just breathe on autopilot. So as human beings with an awareness, we don't do it much, but we can sit and take control of our breathing. We can do it to an extent where we even don't breathe, right? We can just say, I don't want to breathe now. And we don't breathe, you know? That's a high level of awareness, that we stop this function of life. We just stop it like that, easy. But it's very powerful. And then you can learn to extend it and this and that. So with the, you know, optimized breathing, when you come home, if you want to, you know, wind down after a day of stress or training, you know, you're just tired. Then, of course, like I said, the nose breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, not over breathing with your shoulders, down in the belly. You know, people can put one hand on the belly, one hand on the chest, and then you will feel the difference. And then maybe some people will realize that they're actually mouth breathers, especially if somebody's filming them, right? Maybe 60-70% of all people are mouth breathers, are using the mouth too much.
60-70%.
Of, I would think, use the mouth
crazy.
either too much in everyday life or when they're doing sports also, especially runners. So when they switch to nose breathing, I can tell you, I don't know how many stories, how incredible stories of, you know, athletes that are changing to that. And then if you hit the VO2 max, when you need more oxygen because your muscles are working hard, you can shift to like nose-mouth breathing. You can breathe from both holes at the same time. People are not really aware of it or used to it. Of course you can, yeah, but you need to know how you use the soft palate, right? Ganesejlet, ganespillet in Danish, and you need to know how much you open it, like with the ujjayi breathing and stuff like that. But also you can open your nostrils, for example, and dilate. You can actively move your like a pig, right?
So just play around. Play around, use the diaphragm.
An amazing instrument.
And basically train yourself to be aware so that when you're unaware, you keep those habits. That's the idea,
Exactly. That's the exact idea. Very beautifully explained. And then you should start to pay more attention to the exhale. Maybe you remember the key to relaxation is in the exhalation. That's another of my go-to sayings, the key to relaxation.
Can you give an
is
example?
The exhalation. Yeah, when you exhale slowly and with control and with peace and with forgiveness and with compassion, or just release it without any of these fancy words, it's not necessarily like Dalai Lama Buddhistic breathing, but just letting go, relaxed, easy. Then you trigger the vagus nerve, the 10th cranial nerve, that will send roots like little fibers into your heart, into your lungs, into your internal organs. So now you actually start from the way you breathe and the way you decide to breathe and the ratio, you start to speak with your organs. Literally, directly. You communicate with them, you speak with them.
Yeah.
Different language.
Which sounds crazy to people that haven't tried it.
Yeah, or doctors maybe.
Yeah.
But it's not that strange. And when people say, "But Stig, how can you relax so deeply and how can you hold your breath so long?" Well, have you ever been stressed? I ask people. Yep. Tried that. Yep. I know the feeling. Just do the opposite, right?
Yeah.
So everybody in here knows the feeling of the heart rate going up, sweaty palms, when you get nervous or you have to get on stage or have an exam or some discussion you don't want to have or whatever, you just get nervous or before a big competition in sports. That's very normal, or a job interview or anything. Then your heart rate goes up because of the adrenaline. You have elevated blood pressure, so hypertension. Your brain is probably not functioning the best. You're kind of in an alert state, so you're kind of survival mode and like fight or flight. So you're probably not the most relaxed, analytical, like reflective, creative person you can be. But you're also vigilant. You're like hyper vigilant. So it's good, to survive and answer the questions that are coming to you, but you're not like in a relaxed state. So if you want to
exhale.
No, I mean if you're not aware of how you breathe, I'm saying, then you're kind of stressed.
Then you're stuck in the fight-flight.
You're stuck in the fight and flight. You're just not doing yourself a service or a favor.
Yeah.
So with the long exhale, you turn off the fight and flight.
Exactly.
You shut it down. You close the door.
Yeah.
Lock the door. Throw away the key, and then you have opened the other door, which is the part of the nervous system that is called rest and digest, and it's where you sleep better. You digest the food literally, like digestion. And you digest impressions, your brain has time to put everything in the right place. And then also for cellular reparation, repair of cells and damage, even on the DNA level or protein/RNA level,
increases.
You start to just regenerate. And, well, your body is regenerating all the time, right? You're not
very
the same
interesting.
as you were like yesterday, right? You have new cells and the self, like your skin. Like I'm scraping my skin now, so I have some skin cells under my nails. Now they're on the floor somewhere.
Yeah.
And now some new will come tomorrow.
Every 7 years, your whole body regenerates, right?
Isn't
that what they say?
More or less, yes. But different cells regenerate at different speeds.
Which is crazy to think about.
But you're not the same person. So the same spirit maybe, but you're not the same person that you were like yesterday or a week ago or a month ago or a year ago. But the point is, with breathing, you can access, who you are in a biological way, and maybe spiritual way, but that's a psychological way as well. But the pure physiology it's amazing. You can contact your neurophysiological state just from a different ratio of breathing, linked with your awareness in your brain, right? So you can either use these techniques to visualize or use these imagery techniques to go in the different areas of your body. That's really often used in sports training practice. You're imagining things, you're seeing them, living them vividly. Maybe a race, you want to prepare for the Olympics, so you see the race, you see what can go wrong, then you know what could go wrong, so you know when it does go wrong, then you have an alternate plan, like plan B. So you're preparing for all these, worst case scenarios, but also the good things, like what it should feel like to win and the flow and the effortlessness. But the point is that you can go into a state with a slow exhale. So we can try that just to
for sure. Let's definitely do
people
that.
at home, and you will feel this effect. So it's nothing. I don't have to explain you about the blood pressure falling down, your heart rate going down. You can measure that. Speaking about this biohacking thing again, right? You can just measure your heart rate. Everybody has a heart rate monitor, or you can borrow one from your friend.
Try to feel.
And that's great. Then you see it. The proof is in the pudding. You see the numbers dropping. So people like that. Same with oxygenation. You put the pulse oximeter. People like to see the number change. Yeah. When you breathe with your nose, you will oxygenate better. So you'll go from 96 on your finger You all know what a pulse oximeter is? Little box you put on your finger, and it will shoot some red light into your finger, and then measure how much hemoglobin and how much oxygen is bound in your blood. So that's called oxygen saturation. How full is your blood with oxygen? But with this slow exhale, you will feel your mind changing because there are different brain waves, and that's kind of also with the training that I do, that you can alter these different states of mind. So you can go in different
Alpha, right?
Alpha, beta,
Theta.
delta, gamma, all these kind of meditation waves. But we're all in beta now. We're paying attention. We're analytical. We're self-critical. We're aware of we're here, but maybe not aware of how we breathe. So it's also kind of a strange state. But when you go into the float state, the perfect state of the zone, you also say in sports, you absolve your ego, you dissolve your ego, kind of like the idea of yoga, and meaning that you don't have an agenda. That's the ego I talk about.
Becomes art.
About a goal or about something you want to do, and then you also become more the perfect version of yourself because you just do.
Yeah.
You just operate, right? Like when you do a sport you're good at, you just operate, but you train thousands and 10,000 hours, we usually say, right? To become a master of something. So you trained a lot in whatever you're good at, and then it's very easy for you because you're an expert. You're a superhuman in that area. But let's try to breathe because people can feel it, so I don't have to explain. And then you can measure after. That's good to have the proof. Oh, okay, it did change. So we can add a little Ujjayi breathing, like I mentioned before. How many people know Ujjayi breathing? Ooh, quite a bit. How many people know warrior breathing? Yeah, it's the same, just a different word. But no, but there are many terms, ocean breathing. But warrior breathing is like, it gives you a strong mind, like of a warrior, and or also the posture of a warrior, big chest, strong, ready to fight. So it's really using the full capacity of your lungs. And then on the exhale, you get all the benefits of your nervous system, that you're actually now turning on this system that will make you relax. And like we said before, how should you breathe at home for recovery, or when you want to relax, take a break during the day, during work, from the computer or from a meeting, just before a meeting? This is a great way. So you breathe in with your nose, use the diaphragm. You stop at around 80%. You don't want to have tension or elevate your heart too much. You want to relax your shoulders, slight pause. So we still in phase one. If you say inhale is phase one, phase two is pause, phase three is then the exhale, and we make it longer, and you can make it as long as you want, and use the tongue and blow out through your mouth. Make the sound of a snake. Everybody can do this at home also. Slight pause again. You're landing the plane. You're just completely landing the exhale. Then you inhale again. So that was the fourth phase, right? The last pause. And then you inhale again softly with the nose. Slight pause, and then even a longer exhale. We can do it together, so we all feel this kind of meditative belongingness to each other. We hear this sound. It's an audio feedback. It's very healthy as well. Relax your shoulders when you exhale. Relax your tongue, your jaw. Open your mouth slightly. No frowning. Relax your forehead. All the wrinkles go away. Your eyelids feel heavy. And again, we breathe in together now. Slight pause. We all breathe in synchronicity now. We exhale slowly together. Listen to each other. Listen to yourself. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, exhale that last air. Slight pause. Little smile on your face, and you breathe in again with your nose, and with control and time. Use that diaphragm. Get the lungs filled from the bottom. 70-80% full, and then slight pause and exhale. Snake sound. You can even move your body if you want. Move your shoulders like a little palm swaying in the wind. Palm tree on the beach. That was only 4 breaths now. We take one last so you can see how quickly a whole room can change the mindset and the vibration in here. Breathe in again. Slight pause and then a very slow exhale. Now about 20, 30 seconds, as long as you can. Soft landing. Beautiful. Beautiful sound. Beautiful state. And this is how you will change your voice. It will become more soft. It's great before an interview, before anything you're going to do, before, your kids come home or whatever. And it's a great way to just reset your body. And it takes, 1 minute, 2 minutes. Now you can add ujjayi onto that. Like I said, we can add something, which is the basic way of breathing in yoga. And there are different ways of explaining it. I don't like when people use the throat. I also described it in my book when I was more a beginner 20 years ago or 15 years ago. And there are different ways of teaching this, but I'll show you 2 ways of breathing. And I think by far the second thing I'm going to show you is much better, but it's not always so easy. So ujjayi breathing, this is kind of the basic breathing of all yoga, for the pranayams, especially this breathing yoga, the 4th limb, the 4th step of yoga, back to my lucky 4 number. So you breathe in and you can use the throat now and make a sound like, or try to use your mouth just to get this sound. So what we want to do is just make a valve and get control of the airflow. So airflow control is very important. So that's what you're creating now, a little valve, a system that is either big or small in your throat, right? But it makes your throat dry, and it's really a lot of muscle tension, but it's one way of doing it. And you can do the same when you breathe out. It's easier when you breathe out, right? Because it's a sound. And you can try to say EH or and then when you breathe out, HE or HR. Many of you know this from yoga. But it's also what you have in martial arts, right? You have these sounds that are coming to us naturally because it shapes your vocal cords in a way that helps you optimize the energy and the force of body movement with your breathing. You become stronger, more powerful. But you also dry up a little bit.
Yeah.
So now we do it with the soft palate. So in your mouth, you have the soft part of, so you put your finger in your mouth, also at home, and you will feel that what's behind your teeth.
Hard.
Very hard. It's a hard palate, funnily enough. Big bone structure, your skull is there. But if you go a little bit deeper, like half the finger, you feel the soft palate, right? That's the soft part. It goes up like a cave. And that little flap there, you can move up and down. It's also like snoring. It's the same. The vibration, you feel something in there. It's not the nose vibrating. It feels like it's the nose, but it's not the nose. The nose.
How did you do the first thing?
Just lift it up, down,
See?
up, down. Like the diaphragm.
Are you gagging?
It's like up, down, like not gagging. It's not deep down in the throat, and it's like the diaphragm. You lift it up and down. But anyways, you can just do the pig sound. That's fine, like pig in a state, like snoring sound. Boink, boink, boink. And when you do that, you have the same effect, but with no muscle tension. And it sounds like this. I'm completely relaxed in my mind, in my muscles, in my face. So it's not. So slight lift of the soft palate will change, and you have a better airflow control because you have a smaller valve. So the air goes out with more control, meaning that now it get a little bit scientific again, but your internal thoracic pressure, your lung pressure will increase because you have a resistance when you blow out. So what this means is that you will oxygenate better. So if you have a pulse oximeter on, or you're an athlete, or you have lung issues, or smoker's lungs, or post-COVID problems, or anyone in your family that have breathing problems, this will maybe not fix everything, but it will help because you will oxygenate better. And it's completely free.
Yeah.
And you feel great. So the more sick you are, the more you should do this. And the more you should do it not 1 minute, but 20 minutes a day. And you will feel great. And then after 1 week, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, the change is, it can be life-changing, the positive effects, right?
Yeah.
But let's try it one last time. And also, people listening at home or watching this recording, audio or video.
Okay.
So it's like this sound. And again, it's like the first exercise we did with the lung packing. Anyone can do this, but maybe not today. Maybe not the first time. Maybe you can only do the throat. That's also fine because it helps you to actually get diaphragmatic breathing going. It helps you to regulate the airflow and you can get it deep into your lungs. It's not just like, you can try that, all of you also at home. That's the wrong way. That's mouth breathing.
Yeah.
And top chest, like high breathing. That's like the worst.
Yeah,
And
because
dry throat.
That's what
And
I
many
thought.
people dry like this all the time. They breathe like this.
So the ones that you just showed, they are mouth breathing, but they are not
Mouth breathing.
mouth breathing.
I was mouth breathing to make the sound and make it easy, but then I shift to the nose.
Okay.
And it sounds like this. But you can all make the snoring sound. We can all make the snoring. No, snoring. Snorg it.
But then you have to open the mouth.
No.
So is this to control the inhalation and to not overbreathe?
Yes, it's to control both. Yes, exactly. It's to not overbreathe. It's to control both the inhale and the exhale. So now, slowly, we're digging into becoming self-mastery, a license to actually regulate the airflow, because it's fine to take in air, but if we don't know where it's going and how fast it's coming in and what the velocity is and the speed and all these things need to be fine-tuned. So when you're playing like, the piano, you need to know exactly where to play and the rhythm. If you just hammer on the different tangents, you don't have a beautiful song. It's like very chaotic. And that's how your breathing is if you don't know how to play the different instruments, right? So you need to know how to play and work with your body to optimize, the outcome you want, which is more oxygen or more health or more vitality. Or longevity, if we go in the biohacking words, right? So you want a long, healthy life. I guess that's what any religion, any person has wanted from the creation of this planet, right?
For sure.
Long, healthy, happy life.
Should we try that before we take a break?
Yeah, let's try that. So we need this snoring thing, and so it's good that you can't do it because it shows that we need to learn. And Jakob is very interested in everything with biohacking and health. So we all beginners at some stage, and then we learn, and then we continue, and then it's even more fun. I remember the first time, I'm not going to do all these anecdotes now, but I remember the first time I learned to do the nauli and to do the belly dancing with my abdominal recti and the abdominal muscles. So both the belly dancing, which is a more kriya, it's like one of the more advanced breathing pranayama exercises in yoga. But also when I just started to lift the diaphragm, it's pretty easy, but then you start to lift and do the nauli. So now we can demonstrate when we come back after the break, cliffhanger. But when I learned that and I could do it myself, it was like, this is the most fun I've ever. This is the most amazing thing with my body. I was so proud. I remember the moment. I remember where I was. I remember the room. I remember everything. And I just figured it out myself. Reading books, yogic books, a lot of scriptures, this and that, and then I found the way to do it, and then I never forgot it. It's like riding a bike. But this is what we need to unlock. That's why I'm happy you're all here. That's why you're putting on this podcast, because I think it's so crucial that everybody in the world, kids, old, whatever,
for sure,
learn to use the breathing apparatus in the best possible way. We don't need to be super yogic people. We don't need to hold our breath for 20 crazy minutes. We don't need to be superhuman, but we need to start to understand that we do have
it should be in school.
We do have the ability to control our breathing, and with that, the mind and, how we feel and engage with ourselves and people around us.
We should know this from a young age.
Yes, of course, kids should learn it at a very young age. Anyways, back to the snoring. So let's all try to do this. So everybody say... We can even play with it, right?
Let's do it.
So this is easy. And then we make a softer sound. Yeah, you see where we're going? And then even softer. Relax your shoulders. Yes, thank you. Yes. So can you make a soft sound suddenly? And then it should sound like this, and often when you hear a sound, then please be a child, don't be a grown-up. Oh, I can't do it, how do you do it? All these stupid questions. Just do it. Just do it, listen to the sound and do it. Don't tell yourself you can't do it, then you can't. You just do it, like this. And you're welcome to have a partner here, maybe you know each other, maybe you don't, which is even more fun. Then listen, put the ear to your person next to you, put the ear to the person. You don't have to kiss or anything. No, the ear, like really go close. Close, like you can touch, there's no COVID, and even if it works, no problem. Can you hear any, can you hear this sound? Can you hear it inside of yourself? And now we've spent quite a bit of time of it, but believe me, this is the fundamental, most important exercise you will ever learn in your life, period. No, but for breathing, breath work, this is the most important. CO2, high levels, comes way after. The basic of breathing, this is going from a toddler, maybe from not moving to crawling, or from crawling to walking. This is how important this is. You need to have this, right? This basic foundational understanding of the breath, of the airflow control. Then you can start modulating, playing, longer exhale, different ratios, have all the fun. You start to unlock the whole piano.
So this sound is what's going to make you able to understand your own breathing, and this is why it's important.
Well, yes, but I can also do it without sound.
Yeah, you can.
So it's learning how to control it, not to understand.
So the sound is a positive biofeedback. It's a loop. It tells you you're doing it the right way, and it is a positive reinforcement in your training of your nervous system and your conditioning of a healthy, new balanced breathing, like a correct, optimized way of breathing. But if you're on a train or you're sitting in a meeting or in an office, you don't want to sit and do this, or they think you're having some problem.
Yeah.
But then you can do it silently, but that's more difficult because then you really need to fine tune it. And if you're breathing in a very slow manner, you also need to be able to tolerate more CO2 because you're breathing maybe at such a slow pace that usually you would feel like the bolt score, you would get the urge to breathe because of the CO2 buildup. But those are one of the goals, to breathe very slowly, maybe 4 breaths a minute.
Yeah.
Those are the goals of yoga and breath work. In general, and back to the animals, we talked about whales and turtles. If you breathe 4 breaths per minute, compared to the 16 you normally do, it's 1/4.
They
right?
must be calm.
So in yoga, maybe we should end on that note, and people can then go to the bathroom and have some water or send a message to your friend or whatever on your phones. And thank you for having them all on mute or silent. Much appreciated. Flight mode or whatever, so we don't get disturbed here from anybody else from the outside. But I think that it's a good way of looking at the world from also when we talk about biohacking, right? Breathwork and biohacking. So in the Indian system, in the yogic system, they look at lifespan as the number of breaths. You're given this amount of breath, use them wisely or stupidly as you want. It's up to you. And that will determine your life. And that is true. It's not just a philosophy. When you breathe in, when you're separated from your mother's womb and they cut the umbilical cord, you start breathing. And that's the first breath of your own life, your independent life. And then the last one is the last exhale. So it's exhaling into death. The last time you let go, right? And then we'll go somewhere else, maybe. Who knows? We came from somewhere. We're going. We don't know.
Reincarnation.
But we think we're here right now, at least, right? So this is the best, bet we have. And so it is true. It's not just a philosophy that the number of breaths that you take will, per definition, be your life. That's your lifespan. But we think in years. We think in money. A lot in the Western world, money, money, money. Money makes the world go round. And then like measuring things. So we think in years because we're so, enslaved by time. And time is money and it all connected, right? So that's why I also kind of retired or like kind of stepped down a bit last year to not be a slave of time and can go where I want in the world when I want. And I've set up, we can have a third podcast on all the freedom systems I've set up and all the countries I live in and how I do that. And I managed to have homes in different places in the world. How is that possible in this crazy world? Controlled, strict, fascistic world. But how is that possible? It is still possible. And maybe we should just loop in with this lifespan of breathing that anybody, I hope, can understand. Then when you choose to breathe more wisely or more lovingly or with just more awareness, you can start there. You can decide how your life is going to be. Is it more stressful? Is it more healthy?
Yeah.
Is it more energized? Is it more compassionate? You decide in
You're
every
in
breath.
control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And through the breathwork, you control what's coming. So you're preparing. You don't know what's going to come tomorrow. So there's no guarantees, but at least you're doing the best you can to control it. And to breathe more slowly, like the whales, and we talked about the turtles,
Mm-hmm.
will give you a much longer lifespan. So if you believe in this, if you buy into this philosophy that the number of breaths you have will decide your lifespan and the quality of your life, then also the way you use those breaths and maybe stretch them, have them over longer time, is when we start to go into the biohacking, excellence of living 120, 30, 40 years. Maybe, right?
I think it's very much linked. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
On that note,
That was part one. Thank you so much, Stig.
Yeah.
It was a
Thank you,
pleasure.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank
everyone,
you.
for listening.
So I don't know if we forgot to mention, but this will be a Q&A for all of us. So if some of you have for holistic disclosure, for me, for Jakob, or for Stig, you just point out whatever question you have. And I guess we'll just mark if someone has a question,
yes.
and we will distribute a microphone.
So, any questions for the Q&A?
All right. So, Stig, I also took your course, and I saw that you used to suffer from asthma. I also have severe asthma. I was born with it. So my first question is, do you believe that everyone can reverse the asthma? And also the second question as a follow-up is, what initiatives, both like on a daily and also maybe more on a weekly plan, can you do to actually reverse and improve your lung health?
Great question. Very, very important question. Very specific. And well put. Thank you. Yes, I could have mentioned that when I talked about myself or my childhood. I love swimming, world records, nature, all this and that. But it's true, I had asthma as a child, as a very young child, at the age of 4 or 5. And I still remember this feeling of not getting enough air, like, and this horrible, like, just feeling really, really horrible, especially at night. And I think through my journey of holding my breath and swimming, and I was lucky to grow up with a nice swimming pool in my backyard, and we sailed, we had a boat in my family. So I would do a lot of diving and finding clams and stones and stuff to show my parents. And then I did competitive swimming from the age of 5 or 6. I was selected for the talent team, it's called, special talents team. And also with the swimming and with the traveling, I loved to hold my breath also in the swimming pool. So I did it a lot. And then because I did it a lot, I became quite good at it. And it was a very easy place for me to relax. So when I became good at it, I did it more. And when I did it more, I became good at it. And it was more fun. And I think that was mainly one of the biggest reasons why I kind of cured myself, or at least, had a good active life with asthma. I kind of regulated, I would say. I've since then, and so to answer your question, the second part of your question, which is very important because there's so many people suffering from allergies, asthma, like more and more in this world for, I don't know exactly what reason, but probably all the things we're eating and the pollution and contamination and stress in our everyday life, the mental stress, a lot of input, right? Social media and stuff. I think there's a lot of unbalance in our system, and that contributes also to other side effects such as asthma and allergy and rashes and maybe not balanced gut health and so forth. Anyways, I don't have like a bulletproof way to reverse it. I don't think everybody can. So I'm absolutely not against drugs or medication. I just don't think it should be used like one size fits all, just drugs, because I have a problem, especially not with mental challenges or PTSD. It's a different topic, but I'm very, passionate about helping veterans and people with all kinds of trauma and stress and anxiety and fear. And breathing is for sure one of the best go-tos. It's free, it's safe, no side effects other than being healthy and more calm. But, antidepressant medicine doesn't take away the reason why you're stressed. So it's like stupid to give it. But I'm not saying it should not be given sometimes for emergency. Different discussion. But I think you can positively improve your health, whether it's allergies and asthma. And I have had several clients, students, whatever you call them, that have reversed asthma. One of them is a yoga teacher in Copenhagen. He was on inhalers for all his life. He's about my age, a bit older, I think. And he kind of healed himself. And he was a yoga teacher. So it was also the breath holding and this more deep pranayama yoga breathing that woke up his nervous system and maybe rebalanced or recalibrated it. I've also had another person for a different reason. I created the first post-polio rehabilitation program in Denmark. So post-polio is a neurological disease. You have it as a child, and then you get it again as a grown-up. That's why it's called post-polio. So you have polio as a kid. It's almost eradicated now, but we still have people that have it in their adult life. And you can't get rid of it then, but you can use your lungs again to the best ability. You can use your nervous system, keep it strong. And I created a protocol and a whole entire system for people with post-polio. Very successful program. We had tremendous positive changes in their health and everyday mood. And one of these people had allergies, severe allergies. Nothing to do with the post-polio. She just had allergies. And she had like a little summer house. And every spring she went there, she said she had like teary eyes and blocked nose and this and that. And that completely disappeared that year. She was training on my rehabilitation program with more active breath holds, with more, I put them a lot in water because post-polio patients, they're not really good at moving or they don't have strong muscles because it's it's degenerative. It breaks down, your body. So which many of these kind of diseases do, but then in water, you're free and you don't have, gravity pulling on you and you don't have the same impact on your joints and your muscles. So I again, back to being a very simple guy, I created this program from what I think is the best idea, the most easy idea, easy way to follow, 50-50. So 50% dry land, which is a swimmer's term. So on land, on dry land, on the ground, yoga, breathing, stretching, and then 50% in water. Breath holding, relaxing, swimming underwater, holding your breath statically, doing meditation underwater, all these beautiful things you can do safely if you know what you're doing. And then these people, especially because I put weights on them and stuff, which you should only do if you know what you're doing, if you're a professional freediving instructor, which I am. I'm a freediver, but I also am a trained instructor, which, whatever. I could probably train without being an instructor, is my point. But because of the school of life. I mean, I did freediving all my life. But when you take a person and weight them perfectly and they're neutral at, let's say, 2 feet of water, then they can start swimming. And mind you, these people don't have normal muscle function. And so it was a way to give them the freedom back, right? And swim underwater and they had a hard time walking on land, many of these, some people in wheelchairs, crutches, but underwater we're all free because water carries you, it lifts your body, and you don't have gravity pulling in the same way. So it's kind of a, 3-dimensional universe of freedom to put people in water, all kinds of people, but especially in rehabilitation. That was a little bit of a side note, but to answer your question, I don't have a bulletproof way, a waterproof way to say that if you do this breathing protocol, this and that. But what I do know from both asthma and allergies is a lot of breath holding helps. The pranayama, especially in the Kriya section, so the more hardcore cleansing exercises, fire breathing, hyperventilation, good thing with hyperventilation, right? So it can be good. I'm not like angry with hyperventilation. Just, be safe and careful with it. So really powering through your system, making it wake up again, waking up things that maybe have, not been used for many years, and then also having a new balance in the way you're breathing, so your breathing rhythm, like we've talked about so much today, to recondition your nervous system. That's one of the main things in Breatheology. Our logo or our tagline is making the world breathe better, one breath at a time. Before it was optimized health and performance. It's been a few things, but one of the most important things is to kind of, use your nervous system and use the breathing and your mind to rebuild your nervous system. That's like the main reason, or the when I train with people, I want them to be able to have tools to rebuild the nervous system. Right? That's why you should train in this system. to be more healthy or happy or stronger or live longer, whatever you want, what's important to you in your life, but it's to rebuild and understand your nervous system as it's meant to be, in the natural way, in the biological way. Yeah, but thank you for that question. And like I said, breath holding and CO2 tolerance training is really, really great for asthma, especially, not so much allergies maybe, but asthma. And allergies you can do a lot with the pranayams, with the different alternate nostril breathing, and open the sinuses, and do a lot of activation of the little hairs. You have little micro hairs in the nose and in the mucous membranes, and you can awaken a lot of that with humming and nitrogen oxide build up, and all these things that you can access from different breathing styles. Yep.
Yeah, we have a guy down here in the light shirts.
Do you have any experience with people having high blood pressure and breathwork?
Yes. And if you want to lower your blood pressure, you could take all kinds of different medication. Up to you. You could also just breathe more calmly, relax more, get your heart rate down, start maybe some light cardiovascular training. So you meaning like running training, for example, walking. And then besides of getting energy every day and energized and have daily exercise, the little ticker also gets stronger, the heart gets stronger. You dilate your blood vessels when you do any kinds of sports or walking, and just those 10, 15, 20 minutes a day will make a great impact. You'll lose weight maybe if you don't think you want to lose weight, but if you also want to lose a bit of weight and stuff like that, it's a great way to activate yourself. And then when you do more of the soft breathing and calm down in different ways, then yes, because hypertension is also sometimes linked to you not breathing optimally. So if we explain it in a very easy way to understand, if you breathe with your mouth and you don't really use your diaphragm, which is your breathing muscle, you only breathe with the upper part of your lungs, you'll have immediate hypertension. Like per default, your blood pressure will go up because your heart needs to beat faster. You don't have enough oxygen, so the heart goes, we need to deliver more blood with more oxygen because we don't have enough. And the body, the cells need the oxygen. Every single cell, you have trillions of cells, they need the oxygen to turn into energy in those mitochondria, these energy factories we talked about. Mitochondrion in singular. So 1 mitochondrion, 2 mitochondria, or 10 million mitochondria. And yeah, so you can do soft breathing exercises and gentle breath holding exercises again. So I'm not being joking. I love jokes, right? But I'm not joking now. So with all this disclaimer, but if you have severe hypertension, or your grandmother or someone has hypertension, don't go and hold your breath like crazy. I'm not saying that breath holding is the remedy from the universe and it cures everything. Don't push yourself. If you have super high blood pressure, don't start holding your breath and pushing even more. And there are 2 ways of holding your breath, right? 2 styles. There's the wrong way and the right way. We do a lot of this training in the Breatheology instructor program. Where's this gentleman who... we can talk about it after. But I had a question here in the break. But that's one of the things we focus a lot on that online program where we actually teach the different ways of holding your breath. Because if you just hold your breath to hold it, I don't think it's neither safe nor very beneficial. It can give you more anxiety and more high blood pressure, right? If you do it the wrong way. If you do it with the right approach, we can call it a soft approach. That's what we say in Breatheology, soft approach and a hard approach. There are 2 ways you can go, which of course is linked to the 2 parts of the nervous system, the rest and digest, or the fight and flight. You can choose, are you going through the green door or the red door? Is it the alarm or the safe space? And this is very important to understand for yourself. And then when you know this, you can teach your clients or your students, that you have. So yeah, if you hold your breath in a soft way and with the baby steps and respect the process and retrain or strengthen the nervous system and your entire blood system, then you can also impact the way the blood pressure and the way the blood is circulating. When you hold your breath, you activate something called the mammalian dive response. Like I called it the inner dolphin. It sounds more cute. But we have this reflex that we share with whales and dolphins and seals, so mammals in the ocean, but also mammals on land. But whales are very good at lowering the heart rate and can dive for like an hour or half a minute or half an hour. Seals maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And when they go down underwater, the heart rate really, really decreases. It's called bradycardia. Dung, dung. Dung, dung. Dung, dung. Dung, dung. More soft and more slow. This is also what happens inside of me. I hear this, I feel this when I dive. So we have this also as the mammals, like the dolphins. We have the same reflex, and we can train to turn that on more easily if we do breath holding, even on dry land. But it's more illicit. It's stronger in water. When you have water on your face, because you have something called the trigeminal nerve, and you have different things happening. Also, the blood is distributed differently. So even if you're here on dry land, up here with me, we do a little session. I help you to hold your breath. Then, of course, if you hold your breath the wrong way and push, and then you get more higher blood pressure. But if you really relax and really go into a meditative state, you can lower your heart rate from the diving response when you're holding your breath, and you can lower the blood pressure. Then it can go up again after you start breathing. But there are many ways you can modulate, I would say. But always do it from a soft approach. Yeah. And if you have some condition, some illness, or some people then do soft breathing. Just that. Don't hold your breath in the beginning. And then you can start. We had another lady who asked about, like, she couldn't from here, it doesn't matter who she is, but she came to me in the break and said, oh, I need to breathe immediately after I do the exhale. I can't have that fourth pause. I can't have that pause in the fourth phase. But that's because you're not used to the CO2 or linked to your mind, right? You feel you need to breathe, but you don't. So this is also, again, you need to train it gently. 5 seconds the first day break. 2 seconds maybe. And the same with this soft approach of breath holding. So I teach breath holding from a perspective where it's not so much about, going to the extreme or holding your breath till you faint. That can come down the line if you like, but it's more for health reasons and to strengthen your mind to become more resilient to stress. So basically what we do in breath hold training is to teach you to become comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. And that again will link to your blood pressure and your stress level in your everyday life. Does it make sense? If you can control it when you're holding your breath, then it's also possible for you to do in other situations in life. So we actually try to teach people a life skill. We can also put a link, or you can put it somewhere. We created something called the 7 Days Breath Hold Challenge. Did anybody join the 7 Day Breath Hold Challenge? Not from here. We had 1,000 people sign up the first day, but you have to know where it is. It's in school, the platform School. Anyways, you can write school, SKOOL, school.com, and write breath holding or 7 Day Breath Hold Challenge, or my name, or Breatheology, whatever. You'll find it's completely free. 7 days of training, and maybe for you it would be fun, because then you have these baby steps, and it's also breath work. I teach a lot of breath work in there, but it's to hold your breath longer. You need to breathe correctly, as we spoke about in the beginning today of this lecture. So yeah, I like to teach it in a soft way. So it's a life skill you're learning, but you think you're just learning to hold your breath. But the idea is to use it in every stressful situation, so you can manage stress better, because you can't change your life, but you can change the way you approach things in your life, right? But good question with the high blood pressure. Yes.
Down here,
Diet, of course, you can look at your diet and salt and things like that.
there's a question down here.
Yes,
Jeg tager den lige på dansk, ikke? Så kan I
I
måske...
can translate it. Yeah.
Okay. Det er nok til begge to. Altså, nu er jeg lidt ny til det her nose breathing, og det snakker jeg jo også meget om i jeres podcast.
Vil du ikke tage den på engelsk? Fordi der er også nogen, der sidder ude i verden og lytter.
Jamen, jeg tænker, I er bedre til det, fordi det er egentlig også til dig også. I forhold til, at I snakker om, at de også ændrer ansigtet ved at trække vejret igennem næsen. Så tænker jeg, du må have virkelig prøvet, hvordan dit ansigt har ændret dig, siden du er begyndt på alt det her vejrtrækning, og hvorfor det er så dårligt at trække vejret ud af, eller ind af munden.
Let me translate first.
Yeah, I can translate it quickly. Just this fine young lady is asking about how breathing will affect your features in your face, maybe your bone structure, your mouth and teeth, and so forth. That was the question. I think Mads should answer it in more depth. I think you were talking more about it. It's you've seen post on his podcast, right?
Yeah,
but my short answer is that I've been breathing all my life and I've been aware of it. But it's not something that changes when you're old or grown up, like finished. It can be modulated, like going to a dentist, but it's not like suddenly your chin is moving or your teeth are this or that because you start doing some breathing. What will be more obvious is maybe the benefits to your teeth and to the skin and to your and to your mouth hygiene, so the bacteria you have, and then with that your gut health. But Mads can talk much more about it. So it's more in the developmental stage that it's important.
Yeah, because I guess the question was whether or not you have been recognizing something.
Yeah,
but I
exactly.
guess
That's how I understood it, and I don't know, because I don't know what I would have looked like. You know, I don't have my own comparison.
But you were a good breather from childhood, right?
I think I've always just been more aware of breathing because I had asthma, like this friend down here. So I think that subconsciously you became more aware at a very early stage that breathing is important. And then because I like to hold my breath because of the free diving, it wasn't that I love to hold my breath. I love to be down and finding fish, and with my spear gun and finding things like, I was so curious. So it was not to neither become healthy or stronger or world champion 20 years later or cure asthma. Nothing of that. It was just play. Play.
Because you also have a well-developed face. It seems that way, with a forward growth and pretty straight teeth, right?
Yeah. My teeth are pretty fine.
Because a
small brain, but pretty nice. I like.
But big biceps.
Not anymore. No. But anyways, no. So, but this question about the changes is it's a lot. Dentists talk a lot about these features and the changing of the mandibula and the teeth
but they don't really know why. Because they want to fix it with braces.
Yeah.
So how can we fix a lifestyle issue with something as materialistic as braces? That's also why we see 80% of people, when they get their braces off, the teeth go back to their normal position because the root cause isn't fixed. So that is basically why the most important is to fix these issues in children. Like teach them. Many people say, should we teach them not to mouth breathe? No, you should teach them to keep nose breathing because they're born nose breathers. And that's why we see crooked teeth, because the jaw is maldeveloping, so it's not opening up the right way. The soft palate is getting too narrow, and that is reflecting in the respiratory cavities. So we cannot breathe sufficiently enough, which will put us into this bad circle of more mouth breathing. And that's also what we see in retracted chins, narrow jaws, face becoming longer, simply because of the cheek muscles are not developing the right way. So in a healthy individual, we should see forward growth of the face in general. We should see white cheekbones, because white cheekbones is associated with white respiratory channels. So I guess that's what's important to say about that if we don't teach our children to keep breathing the right way, it's not about teaching them to breathe the right way, but to keep breathing the right way, because that's how they are born. They will develop these maladaptions in the face, which has underlying issues, respiration, skin issues, mental health issues, because if you don't breathe properly, you don't think properly. Right? So I hope that was answer to your question. Yeah, Ed?
I think it's also about the pressure that your tongues put up to your soft palate when you breathe through your nose. That's one of the reasons. And that pressure is what's going to widen up here. At least that's what Patrick McEwen said when we were interviewing him, that breathing with your nose all the time, you're constantly going to have a pressure up. And that pressure up is going to make that soft palate wider. And that's what's going to, the rest of the things is going to result from that. As far as I remember.
Which is associated to breastfeeding, because being breastfed gives you this optimal development of the soft palate and the tongue posture, as Jakob says. So if children are not being breastfed, if they're being bottle fed, and even worse, bottle fed with formula milk, they don't get the right nutritional value, that will create these maladaptations where the tongue is not functioning optimally, the soft palate will narrow, the posture will look like shit, because the posture is directly correlated to the tongue. And if we look at it from a fascial perspective, like the fascia in the human body, there is a fascial path from the tongue to the lungs and the diaphragm, and even down to your toes. So the tongue has a huge impact on the human body. So maybe it's essential to note that fix your tongue posture, like it can fix a huge amount of issues in your body. So learn how to glue your tongue to the soft palates, kind of like what you taught us an hour ago with some of these breathing exercises, right?
I think in general, maybe to close this question, but because it's very interesting, I think, I'm not an expert on this at all. I've not delved so much. I've not been going into this so much. And I think obviously with structural changes in the bone and skull also has a lot of other reasons, right? Genetically, your surroundings, so heritage, big mix of food, many things, genes in general, genes and environment. But I think maybe some of the things could push you in the right direction, or minimize some of the things that would naturally push you in a bad developmental direction. But it's not to say that breathing can fix anything. That's just my take on it. It's not like, oh, your teeth or your jaw, everything is perfect if you just breathe this way. Then it would really be great to do some more breath work.
Yeah, but I think most of it is epigenetics and not genetics. Of course, we will get some of the genetic expressions from our ancestors, but most of it is environmental and can be fixed by fixing the environment. And I guess you agree on that. We talk about that all the time, right? So fix your environment because you cannot fix your genes, right? Next questions, the guy at the end.
So this is more longevity related, so it's probably more towards you, Mads. But we see a lot of impressive results with people worldwide when it comes to their rate of aging, just by doing the basics. But I'm wondering if you guys think that the next stage of longevity is achievable in a natural way, or if we would have to artificially intervene with like TRT or gene editing or something of that sort.
Yeah, that's why I hate biohacking, basically, because that's where we're merging into. We're using data way too much. And some of those who know Brian Johnson knows kind of like what I'm talking about, which is really the blueprint of data, supplements, AI shields itself from the sun, go against nature as much as you can. And I don't think that's the right way to do it. That's also why I don't wear a what's these called, smart watches where you can track your sleep and all that stuff. Yeah, Whoop, yeah. Because if we rely too much on data, then we forget to think or to feel, basically, right? So we get dull. We have no idea how our bodies function. And I guess that's where we are heading now, because we think technology will create advancements. But if we don't respect nature and if we deviate too much from it, it will not. It will create the opposite. So we should use technology to supplement rather than to replace, right? That's my take on it. So we should be cautious about that. Learn to communicate with your body, not with a fucking smartwatch, right? That's my take on it, at least.
I think this gentleman asked me, so I can go a little bit further down. He asked me, I can. It's not a secret. He said I come from a academic background. My parents are in academia, so it's always data, and so what do you think about that related to, like, there's so many people claiming so many things and saying so many things, like, how can we make sure it's true? And I said, so I'm like a little bit in between you and him, I guess. I am a scientist. I was teaching at the university for several years, and I did my master's degree in biology, zoophysiology, neurophysiology, studied human anatomy in Barcelona and Spain as well when I lived there, and then I did my PhD in medicine. So a doctoral degree, you say in English. So I've been very, very much used to the academia and the data-driven, statistical analysis, which cannot be a whole story. There's, lies, damn lies, and statistical analysis. That's kind of the joke we had there at the faculty, and worldwide. You say this because you can have a graph kind of show everything, like with on COVID. Like, just change the values in the graph, and you're like dying tomorrow, or like everybody died in Denmark today because you changed, like, one person more got ill. It looks like, yeah, you know what I mean when you change the graph, the X and the Y. Like, you can have the stock market crash tomorrow, but it's like changed 0.5%, but it looks like the world is ending. So I told you could use a pulse oximeter or things that are very simple to see that when you breathe with your nose compared to your mouth, in a special way that I told you, or just in your own way, then you will actually see the oxygen saturation rising, which will tell you in data, in numbers, this is great, I'm doing it the right way, and it's helping me, it's benefiting my health or my performance. So I see a lot of athletes, when I give them this little pulse oximeter or little things like that, they love it because they can actually see, we say seeing is believing. I agree with Mats, I'm also more developed now, and I know my free diving, and I know how deep I am in the water and this and that. I don't wear all these gadgets all the time. But when I was training and developing all the world records and my my regime for the training protocols and stuff, I thought it was so much fun, and I was in a world of science. We had the laboratories. I could just go there, and at that time, it's 25 years ago. It was much more like, yeah, just go and do some tests in the afternoon. We didn't have to book the studio or the laboratory, and we could have professors come and help us in the night. It was more casual, more relaxed. We did a lot of testing. You can read it in the book, but all from MR scans to PET scans of my brain, injecting radioactive isotopes so you can see where they go in the brain and following them. We did measurements on the spleen. We did ultrasound. We did, blood tests. We did a bunch of stuff. So that's why I said before we didn't come to that. We can take that in a third podcast. Freedivers were the first biohackers. So I don't look at biohacking with that, and I don't hate the term as such. It's more in my world, I don't know what it means, but I guess it means like hacking life, biohacks, right? Little shortcuts. So I agree with Mats. It can be too data driven and too far removed from kind of yourself. Like, take responsibility, feel, breathe and see if you feel better. Do you feel better? Yes. Do you need to measure it? No. You feel better. You have the results. But in your case, you said you wanted data, so you could also measure it. You feel better? Yes. Great. You measure it. Heart rate went down 5 beats per minute. Great. So it works scientifically, right? So in that sense, I think it's good to the naysayers or people that are more data driven. They want to see results like that. Then maybe it can help them go to the feel world and say, hey, okay, I see it works. Like, it really works. Like when I train the Navy SEALs, we didn't get into all this crazy stuff. We can do that in a third or fourth podcast. But when I train the Navy SEALs, or Victor Axelsen, who just got the gold again in the Olympics, amazing athlete. So when I train these guys in more hardcore exercises, it's good to show, and they can see immediately that what I show them works, because this is serious business for these guys. They're not messing around. So they want to see it works now. And then use that in the training. So if you can take that from the data to the more soft, and then now it feels good, that's a good way. And I think biohacking, as I see it, is more an umbrella term, but I guess you see it the same way, Mads, where it's like an umbrella term with so many things. Like with pills, like supplements, and like measuring, and your night sleep, and the blue blockers, all the light or not, like a myriad, like a multifunctional universe of data. And then the trick becomes selecting, and I agree that it's way too much or too many things. Like, you could have your whole life, 8 hours a day, just biohacking, like, instead of just living or go running in the forest. Is it helping? It probably helps on your health if you don't even measure it. But I think it's interesting to dissect some of the different things, because that's what I've done, like ice plunging or ice bath, right? We know it's good. It feels good. Your immune system is stronger. You don't get sick. Look at old people that do ice bath or, winter bathing or polar, clubs in Denmark. They're super healthy. And because of immune boost functionality, immune system. So I think biohacking is kind of a fun way to use it, either for your training or even for the scientific world, to kind of we can say doctors that don't know about breath work or don't believe it works. Kind of like 20 years ago, doctors was like, ooh, no, acupuncture, that's kind of woo-woo. It's like voodoo. Don't do it. Why should we do it? Now every doctor is using it, and dentists, for pain relief and stuff. So maybe we could also use it for some of the breath work and even breath holding to analyze and find some of the main points in the data and present them scientifically, and peer-reviewed articles, as it's called in the scientific world. So other specialists in that field look at them and read them and say, oh yeah, that seems okay. This analysis is good, and the data seems trustworthy. And then we could, maybe have more breath work in hospitals, and then it could come to schools, and then politicians would maybe wake up from whatever they're doing and then say, oh, maybe we should also start to take, our citizens' health seriously, and maybe offer this at citizens' homes or whatever place. So it needs. So I look at it as an opportunity maybe to bring some of all these things that we're doing, but with the data, then presenting that, then maybe get some people to open their eyes a little bit more for the many possibilities, if we can put it like that, if that makes sense.
If I can add, I think it also depends what kind of life you want to live. Because we talked to one that was 100 years old. She had no clue about any of these, what do you call them, biomarkers or anything. All she cared about was the mental part. Always be positive, have a positive attitude to what you're doing. See it as being curious about life, going into a new chapter and seeing the positive side of it. Because that's what's going to get you active and curious and seeing new things. As long as you have a positive attitude, it seems like you want to live. And the moment you don't want to live anymore is the moment you die. And if you go too much into biomarkers, what you're basically saying is someone else can take control over your body. I'll eat these pills. When I get sick, I'll take these pills. I go to the hospital. But if you take your own control and you live how you want to do, it doesn't matter if you're 80 or 90. That's how I see it.
Okay, thank you. I guess the guy down there with the tats.
So this question is mostly for Mads, but I would love to hear Stig and Jakob's opinion as well. Living abroad for a few years, I've noticed a very clear pattern in the amount of sun that I'm getting and my general well-being. So now back to living in Denmark, I don't get the amount of sun that I was used to. And I was just wondering, I've heard mixed reviews and mixed opinions about tanning beds. And I was just wondering, how often do you use the tanning beds? Do you have any opinions on maybe, do you think you can mitigate the risks that might be involved by living in a particularly healthy way? So just would love to hear your opinion on that.
Well, yeah. First of all, I don't believe in the quote-unquote studies that say that tanning beds cause cancer, because when you look at statistically where cancer rates are highest, it's at the northern hemisphere. Skin cancer, right? So it means that skin cancer is not correlated with too much sun, but too little sun. All right? So that's why I and a lot of people, increasingly many people, begin supplementing with tanning beds in the winter months. I would never do it in the summer, because even if you live in Denmark or Sweden or Norway or Finland, you still get the amount of sunlight that you need during the summer half year. But in the winter months, I supplement with UV therapy or tanning beds, because you need the UV light that you don't get from the sun for 6 months. What's dangerous about UV light is excessive UV radiation, right? So if you get too much of it, or you get too much of it in isolation. What the byproduct of too much UV radiation is, that's a sunburn, all right? So that's why you would never be so much in the sun that you get a burn. That's where it becomes dangerous. And that's why you develop skin cancer. You don't develop skin cancer from being in the sun or from doing tanning bed sessions once in a while. So to answer your questions, I would supplement it in a dose response way. So maybe like it depends on your skin type, right? But maybe once a week, a couple times a month, something like that. And I would also recommend you to find a UV bed that includes red light or infrared light as well, because the infrared light has a protective exposure on your skin, whereas the UV light in isolation, as we said, is more aggressive. So if you can do them in isolation, it will mimic the sun exposure, because sun has red light and UV lights, right? So if you can do that, that would be the best solution. But I see no dangers in supplementing with a tanning bed once in a while.
I have a little take on it also. I'm a biologist, as you know, and I'm not talking about the scientific part of my fine laurels from the university and my diplomas. I'm talking about just that I love nature. I'm a biologist. I always was born this way. I loved animals. I loved nature. I was curious by heart, and I was a biologist even if I hadn't got my exams. If it makes sense, I would have gone the same way, the same direction. So I grew up also in Florida. When I was a teenager, I lived there. I've been a lot. I live also in Spain part of the year. I live in Dubai. I live in Malaysia, and I live in Mexico. I live around the world, but these places I have homes. I have bases. These where it's like nice and warm, and I can surf and dive. Um, and so the point is that I've not been very good, and it's not that you should do it or not, but I've never been very good at putting on sunblock for the very simple reason that I don't like it. It's so greasy. It's nothing to do with my vanity. I'm a very simple guy, but feeling very greasy and stuff is not so nice. And I think it comes from when I lived in Florida and I surfed a lot. And if you put sunblock on or sunscreen on, you're sliding around on the board, right? You can't really have sunscreen all over your body. So you're gonna have a rash guard on like a t-shirt, and you're gonna have block like sink, like the skiing on like an Indian. You can put it on your nose and on your cheekbones, or on your cheeks, but I was not very good at it, and I haven't had, I think, any analysis. I think I tried one, I don't remember, a long time ago, but I haven't had any analysis of my skin and what is the risk or not. But I think it's nothing scientific. I think it's nice and natural to be out in the sunlight. Like you feel good. You wake up with the sun. You see the sun go down. And of course you avoid the daily hours. Not just because you hear it from the radio, but you can feel that it's too much. Like from 12 to 3, it's crazy high. Radiation, whatever you want to call it, UV, this or that. But I was never very good at using sunblock or sunscreen. That's kind of my point. And it's not that I don't believe in it, or I was just not good at it. It's not a habit I developed. And I think it comes from this with the surfing also. As a kid, of course, my mom would put some sunblock on me, so it's not that my parents are totally irresponsible. And I think it's good to use sunscreen. If you put it on, use factor 50 or 30. I never understood this 4 or 6 to 12. I'm like, when I tell my friends or girlfriend or whatever, don't even put that stuff on. Like, why would you put 8 or 4 on if you can have 50 protection? I'm talking about the sunproof factor. So SPF, yeah. So that's my take on it. Don't know if that made any sense, but I think it's good to be out and have light and have probably also talk about your moods, that you feel better when you're out in the sun, when you're not in the dark, rainy, Nordic forest.
And for those that have tried UV beds or tanning beds during the winter months, you know what feeling that you're leaving with, right? Uplifted, energized, like when you've just been 10 minutes on vacation. So that in itself should be proof, right? And back to the feeling, knowing your body, intuitive thing. Animals intuitively can feel when they have had enough sun, so they seek shadow. If we are in tune with our bodies, we can feel that ourselves. And I'm not an antagonist of sunscreen either. I think some people should use it, but I think that most of us, if we follow the sun on a basis that we should, then most of us should not use sunscreen. We should just seek shadow, and like you're saying, Stig, be careful between 12 and 3, right?
The problem is if you're not used to being in the sun and then you go to Mallorca or you go to the Philippines or Thailand for 10 days and you go crazy, now you've got to get a goddamn suntan. Yeah. That's of course the receipt of skin cancer and burns in general, and you feel tired and dehydrated and all this and that. So it would be the same as never running and then going somewhere and then running a marathon. Like you never ran, but you think it's fine to run a marathon. So it's just too much stress and too much pressure. So you don't have build up the resistance in your skin.
Exactly.
So I think it's very like a no-brainer, common sense that if you're out and a few hours every day, which we're not because we have office work and stuff now in this kind of the world, many of us. But if you're outside, then your body will take care of it. That's how we're developed with the resistance in the skin and the pigmentation and things like that.
Yeah, because we're building pigmentation, melanin throughout the spring. where the UV radiation is very low. So we're adapting throughout the spring. So like you say, we're not outdoor creatures anymore. So we open the doors when it's June and say, hello, sun.
Yeah.
And then we're fucked, right?
Yeah.
Instead of if we're outside a few hours a day, all year long, basically, then our skin adapts.
Of course, yeah.
And then we don't get a burn. I never use sunscreen anymore. Maybe if I travel way south, right? Then my skin is not adapted to it. Otherwise not. So that's how it works. Yeah. I don't know who came first, Jeppe.
So my question is mainly for you, Mads. It's about myofascial releases. I'm doing your 10-week course right now, and I'm just wondering about like how do you track your progression? Is it just like following the pain and kind of attacking the pain until it goes away, or does there always like stay some kind of discomfort while doing MFR?
Persistent pain.
Persistent pain.
So if you have persistent pain, then you have a trigger point. Or yeah, it's basically called a trigger point. So if you can apply pressure to some parts of your body which has persistent pain, and not just when you, not just the day after you have been training, then you have a trigger point. So when that persistent pain goes away, then your trigger point is released, meaning the fascia has been rehydrated.
Okay.
So
I also have like a second part to the question. I mainly do like traditional fitness, and I'm just wondering how that impacts during MFR.
Well, that keeps provoking the trigger points.
Yeah.
Because then you keep being in this compressed, isolated state. So you're repairing and damaging, repairing and damaging. Maybe you're making some progression, but you're still not releasing the core part of the issue. And I guess you knew that before answering the question, but
Yeah,
you just
kind
wanted
of.
me to say it. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to know how much it impacts and if it's possible to keep on doing some strength training and still getting the release.
You can. But if the only thing we do is move in an artificial range of motion, then we keep being locked. So we can supplement with real life human movement, right? So you can combine them. But if you only work in an isolated plane, if the only thing you do is moving up and down, then this is your movement pattern. Then that's what your body knows, right? So yeah, if you really want to keep doing that, then make damn sure that you do something that challenges your body in another way, right? But don't do it in isolation. That will only create an endless circle of trigger points.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question for you, Stig. It's regarding, you mentioned earlier that you have trained the military. In what ways, what kind of training, and what did you preach? Especially maybe diving as well, and breathwork, of course.
Yes. Yeah, for many years I've trained the Danish Navy SEALs. I've trained some of the SEAL teams from Norway, France, the SAS, the UK elite soldiers, special ops, also from the SEAL Team 6, which you probably know from movies and stuff, the US Navy SEALs, and the Danish Royal Air Force. I train some of the pilots, and I've been lucky to fly in the fighter jets as well, the F-16. And I've even been invited to the US to train the F-35 fighter pilots. So the new planes, we're replacing the Danish fleet from what's called the Falcon, the F-16 fighting Falcon to the new F-35. It's a bit more heavily, like a chubby lady, but it's a really big upgrade. And so I've been lucky and been trusted by them for many years to train in various scenarios. I've been invited to Svanemøllen, if you know, where they have the training in Copenhagen. And we did, for example, 1 week of close combat training. So knives, stabbing, martial art, close-up combat, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, grappling, judo styles. So I would teach breathwork to maintain strength and not tire out too quickly in close-up combat situations. And I've also been teaching it for you could say rescue of hostages or from different hostage situations. If you're taken hostage, I can give you one example, very concrete. There's some things I can't talk about, obviously, but also especially from the Navy SEALs when I'm invited to see all of the training. But what I do with them, I can talk about some of it. And for example, with the Royal Air Force, I was teaching or lecturing for all the main generals, like the highest ranked people running the Danish Royal Air Force, so all the fighter planes and the Hercules and all these trains, all the planes. So not the fighter pilots, but the staff running it. And so they said, yeah, we've been taught this kind of box breathing. If we're taken hostage, having a bag on our head, taken somewhere, by by the enemy. And they were taught so box breathing or square breathing. Do you know what it is? And to go back to this lady who doesn't matter who it is, but some lady who asked me in the break, I can't, have this pause when I breathe out. I feel like I need to breathe, which I think is partially, psychological and physiological. You need to train both your mind and your resilience or adaptation to higher CO2 than normal. But I told him right out of the gate, like I'm telling you now, I don't think that's the best way to breathe, box breathing, for that very reason. So box breathing, for those who don't know or listening at home or wherever you are, box breathing is, again, 4 ways of breathing. So you have the 4 phases, so that's a good thing to start with. But it's not easy, so you breathe in for 4. We can breathe together. Then you hold for 4. Then you breathe out for 4. Then you hold for 4. And I don't think that last hold is very easy or, helpful if you're taken hostage and you have to sit and do this. I think my take, the go-to exercise I always do, I call it relax on demand. I kind of invented this term, relax on demand, like flicking a switch. And relax on demand is very much what we did this morning. Ujjayi with a long exhale. So it's 1-2 breathing, the ratio 1-2. So inhale is maybe 5 seconds, exhale 10 seconds, right? Or 3-6, 4-8, doesn't matter. Little break in between. We've all learned the 4 phases. You need to have a slight start, little pause, then inhale, pause again, exhale, pause again. And I think this simple way of just breathing in a natural way, slight pause, and then a longer exhale. I know, I feel my body and I can measure it, is much more relaxing than doing a box breathing. So I did it with these generals and they're like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. This is much better. Why didn't anybody teach us this? I'm like, I don't know who teaches you this stuff or not. So that's one example of not hardcore training, but understanding the breathing, how it works in your nervous system, in your mind, and when to apply it, right? And this is like the highest, like for survival, not doing stupid things or in the end, taking your own life. This is really stuff that is important if you're taken hostage, right? For 3 months somewhere or for whatever time. And I also train breathwork, kind of the same exercises, but to reset. So I call it a reset breath. And this is one of the guys from SEAL Team 6. So when they're freeing hostages, they kick in a door like you've seen in the movies, but you don't know what's behind the door. Is it a guy with a whatever machine gun or Kalashnikov, whatever, or is it a young woman with a child in her arms? Nobody knows, but you have to pull the trigger in 1/100th of a second when you break the door in, right? But you need to make the right decision before you pull the trigger. So those kind of things, I train the breathwork to open the mind. So we're not in the fight and flight, even though you're in a hostile environment, you're in somewhere in the desert, it's in the night, you have night vision on, it's really, really high stressor, environments. But you still need to stay calm. And what can you use? Your breathing. You can't change the environment. You're put somewhere, you need to rescue somebody, you're dropped from the helicopter, but you can't control your breathing, and that controls your mind. And then you can stay sharp, stay focused, and then you kick the next door. You breathe in before, slight pause, reset the mind. You're going to a new challenge, new job, next room, like that. So those are examples where I apply it in very, you can say, actionable steps. Very simple exercises, but the fact they're simple doesn't mean they're not super efficient. They're super easy, but super efficient. Has a high degree of positive outcome of the situation they're in. And it's the same, of course, with the Navy SEALs. I train a lot of the Danish Frogman Corps. I train a lot of underwater stuff. The way they move, the mindset, the slow motion thinking that I teach. CO2 resilience, but more hardcore exercises. So that would be empty lung, forced exhale, empty lung, standing on people, keep standing on them on their back, pushing them in the deep end of the pool, holding them down, all kinds of hardcore things that I also do with the surfers when I train the big wave surfers. We might do a workshop next year in Portugal, in Nazaré, with the big waves, and one in Hawaii. But you can always follow on breatheology.com on. I don't do so many things, but some fun events I do every now and then. So yeah, I think those are different ways of using breathwork in a simple way, but to have a great outcome. And and I've also been lucky to look as the first through the protocols of the Navy SEALs. They have a high degree of trust. I know the former boss of the Navy SEALs. They become personal friends sometimes, when you work with friends and they trust you, or with people and they trust you. So when you come to these guys, they know who you are. You don't have to. I did a world record once. You don't have to explain anything. They know, because they don't call you if they don't know who you are. Let's put it that way. It's not for clearance. That's also a different thing. You need to be clear and stuff. But these high-end people don't call you if they don't think you can help them. Same with athletes. When I train high-end athletes or for surfing, it's about survival. You need to know that you trust the stuff that I'm doing can help you and make a difference, life and death, not just like fun. Ooh, I can surf a bigger wave. No, when you're knocked down in Nazaré or in Hawaii, in those big, big waves, higher than this building we're sitting in, 30 feet, 35, 40 feet, it is life and death when your board breaks and you're kept down, and another set is hitting you, another set is hitting you, another set is hitting you. So that's where you need the relaxation. Yeah, you need the relaxation, and you need of course, super high CO2 tolerance, because you can't breathe. If you breathe water, and then you drown, and then you die, as we talked about earlier.
Could you elaborate quickly on just how to improve the CO2 tolerance? And for example, one of the extreme cases where you train, let's say, the Navy Team SEALs 6 on how they dive even better?
You can. I've not trained the whole Team SEAL 6. They're also spread all over the planet. They're like the ghost team. They're not really a team. They're the only team that is not really a team. I don't know if you know, but there are several SEAL teams, but SEAL Team 6 is the dream team. It's like the dream team in basketball. It's the team you want to make, like the Magic team, but it's high-end special ops, and then a little bit higher. So what I do with these guys, or with the Danish Navy SEALs, we can send you a link, because it's recorded. I've been the first to be able to, like I said, I've seen the protocol of how they train, and I've been the first to see that and modulate it, refine some things, just like the box breathing. I said, this is not so smart, and this is outdated, and they've been very closed about it, the military in general, like hospitals and doctors, like, oh, this is the best way, and we know everything, so we don't need to change it. But there is a mindset where people are more open-minded, and younger people like yourselves are the leaders now of companies and hospitals and military staff, right? Which is great. So it's time for change. but we can send a link, because I did a big program for German TV, and they were the first ever to be allowed to film inside of the Kongsør, where the Navy SEALs are training, here in Zealand. And this is actually because of this guy that I said is now my personal friend. I walked with him a few months ago for a charity for cancer, bladder cancer, and for veterans to donate. So I walked with him in the West Coast in the sand to collect money. And he walked with a professor who also is a professor in bladder cancer. But when you get to know these people, then they give you extra permissions because they trust you, like anything in life. Business takes trust, and we did a great thing there, and we can find the link. I don't know if you could put it on your podcast or somewhere, or the email we send to people. We can send it to all of you, but it's a little program in Germany, it's in German, but it's really, really showing what I do. Squats, breath holds. Roll the tires, the tractor tires, breath holds. monkey training with breath holds. So it's what they do, but I make them hold their breath. Push-ups is you can just come here and do come here. You can just come. Yeah, you can just come. But push-ups is too easy because you're strong, but it's easy. So one exercise would be to exhale. But this is one exercise I actually thought about doing today when Matt said, Steve, do a little bit hardcore exercises. So one of these exercises I thought about, but now it's perfect you're asking me.
Thank you.
So what you do is, this is a forced exhale squat. So it's super easy, but it's effective. And you're not putting the same strain on your muscles. Say you do some CrossFit or athletics that you would normally, because how many squats do you take to be tired? How many do you need? Without weights. Yeah, a few hundred. Yeah, so it's a long time. It takes a long time and puts a lot of work on your legs and your knees, and right? But in this exercise, in 1 minute, you're done. You can go back home, you're finished with the training. So you just do like this. Everything out. Forced exhale as much as you can. Stop, hold your breath, and do 50 squats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Still easy because it's still blood. He's fresh. 10. But then after a little while, not yet, but after a little while, he'll start to get the urge to breathe. Now he's at 15. He's doing good. But then the psychological part, like, that's only 16. Yeah, you should have done 50. So anyways, thank you very much. Give him a hand. Big round of applause. So I would be, so not to provoke Mats maybe a little bit, I like him a lot, but I would say this is kind of biohacking, right? If we want to keep these modern terms. So you forcefully exhale, you have less air, you have less buffer for the CO2, you are smart. If we say we measure it or whatever, like biohacking, you're hacking an exercise, but you're doing some physiological changes by blowing out the air, the CO2, the oxygen, everything goes out. You have less buffer for the CO2, which builds up because you're using the muscle, and CO2 is the byproduct of creating energy. So, and then you have no oxygen or less oxygen because you blew out the air and you're forcing it out. Even you could just do a neutral. It would be easier, right? And then in the last, in the last part, so from 12 to 15, you start to stress and your face gets red, and that's, which I wanted to say, like Matt said, then it becomes the mental game. That's when you really need to relax your mind. So it's a body exercise first, moves into a mind exercise. And then after that, it would move into a flow exercise or a, pain endurance or pain relief or whatever. So that many layers going up the ladder. And that's kind of what we're also doing breath holding. So this simulates breath holding your breath underwater, but you don't get to that lactate or lactic acid level maybe until after 8 minutes of breath holding. So it takes a long time. Here we are fast forwarding. So it is kind of a biohack, you can call it. Smart hack, in your training. So this is the kind of stuff I do with them. So they can do it if they don't have much room. They can do it quickly. They don't need to do 200. They're in great shape, and that's their work, to be in great shape and climb over things and dive. So if you can train smarter, also for athletes, with less impact on your joints, on your legs. So I take a lot of these training protocols I do also from the stuff I've done in rehabilitation with the post-polio protocol I talked about before. When I train people in water, less impact on the joints. We could probably even say fascia, mass, big thing there, and bone structure, just less impact, but same effect, same training of the muscles, right? And you probably still feel like, you're in great shape, I can tell. How old are you? 25. So you feel the lactic acid still, right? Little burn, or has it subdued? Has it left? Almost left, but you felt it while you walked down, right? Bit hard in the legs. And so I think it's fun and fascinating that you can be this tired you took 15 and you took probably not every second, right? So 15 seconds, 18 seconds, max 20 seconds, you were done. And you could do 3 sets, of course. You would do more sets. So you really ramp up, more CO2 is built because you can't blow it out. So you have a short break, 1 minute of breathing or 30 seconds. And you can even do like super hypercapnic training. That would be the same 3 times. But then instead of just breathing 30 seconds, next round you would breathe only 15 seconds. Last round you would breathe how many times? 1 time. Yeah, I do it also in breath hold training when I do the breath holds. I was training Malte Eberts last night, or yesterday morning. I've been at a huge wedding. That's why I'm a bit sore for 3 days. A big, gorgeous fairy tale Hans Christian Andersen wedding at a castle, not so far from here. But he was one of the guests and one of the performers. So that's why I'm a bit sore. It's not because I've been drinking like crazy, but I've been singing and dancing for 2 nights. And he was also performing, but he did breath holding yesterday. So I did also this kind of scaling it up, and he set a new personal record. His tour manager Rasmus set a new record. Malte Eberts is this guy who called Gulddreng, if you don't know this name, in Denmark, but he's a super famous singer who's been singing for the Queen and for the whatever. He's really a great guy also, very talented, extremely talented with singing and music. He did the Christmas calendar for the kids, all this kind of stuff. But he was like doing a joke 10 years ago where he had all this jewelry and was called the Golden Boy, about drugs and girls and hotels and fast life, kind of Nick J, if some of you heard of that 20 years ago. Anyways, he did 4 minutes, 10 seconds, and his manager did more than 3 minutes. And that's just in a quick session I did with them. So I would build up the program for them and change little things compared to what he did. So that's just an example of how you can trick or change little things. So maybe biohacking is going too much to call, it's too extreme to call it that, but it's just a very fashionable word, biohacking. I guess it's good for SEO if you use it in your podcast. So I think about these things as well. But little changes in your training that are smart changes can make a huge difference. So if I were to train a guy like that, Malte Eberts, so this singer, who's not really an athlete, but he likes to push it. He was really into the breath holding. He loves this stuff. Then I would start doing kind of what you're doing now in his home training. And I would send him to mass and say, do some fascial release and stuff like that. But then on top of that, I would start to doing more. I would do more of the hypercapnic training in water, but only if you have somebody watching you. So I would do the 30 seconds break, 15 seconds break, 0 seconds break. So 1 breath break. You come up after a long dive and you go again. And we did the same in the hypocapnic training. The first exercise I talked about when somebody asked me the 50 meters, the 20 by 50 or the 16 or how many we did, right? And we would also come to do only 1 breath sometimes. That's like crazy hard. Crazy hard. And when I do this with the Navy SEALs, to end off your question, it doesn't matter how much Navy SEALs they are, they're babies. They are crying their eyes out. They're like, no, I can't do it. And they're not crying like that, but like a crybaby. But the beautiful thing about breath holding is that anyone is equal. Anybody, fat, skinny, high, tall, old, young, doesn't matter. It's tough for everyone to not breathe. It's really tough. Doesn't matter how tough you are, how much you can swim, how many bullets you can take. Doesn't matter. When you need to breathe, you need to breathe. That's why, again, I think freediving and breath holding is the number one biohack you can use. It's like the strongest compared to any supplement or sleep or blue blockers or sunscreen or weight loss or fasting, whatever. Breath holding is so hardcore because it's our life source. It's oxygen. It's our fuel. So I do these things with them, like really make them, I push them out of the comfort zone way more than, they've done that many times. That's what their training is all about. They're really, really tough. But to push them in these exercises when it's fast, that's fun. And to see them all just, when you have somebody hold their breath as long as they must, I tell them, you must keep going. No, you must keep going. You can break anyone, which is, kind of fun.
Next question.
Yes. I guess we can get one or two more. Yeah, you have had your hand up for a long time.
So I was wondering if you have any advice on how to alter consciousness and mindset through breathwork.
Ooh, yes. Hyperventilation. So the gentleman is asking if there are any ways or have any suggestions how you can alter your state of mind and consciousness. Yes. Then we're almost in the DMT kind of hyperventilation world. How you breathe is how you feel. Always, right? How you feel is how you breathe, but not always. So your breathing is usually never lying. I think is one of the greatest indicators of how you're doing, how you're thinking, your conscious state, your subconscious state, and your body/psychological state. If you're stressed, you're breathing without a pause. That's the first thing I claimed, right? If you're afraid, you breathe the same. Mouth breathing. You're not aware of it. You're in fight and flight. You're not smart about anything. You just want to survive. If you're sad, same. You don't take the time like, I need to make the break, Steve told me. No, you don't do that. You lose your consciousness. You use your focus when you're sad or afraid, right? So it depends on how much, I think I understand your question, but I'm just saying, like, from here down here on the ground, all of us normal human beings, you can change just a little bit in your breathing rhythm, in your ratio, and it will alter your state of mind immediately. Like we talked about the alpha and the beta, the wave frequencies. So if people don't understand what I'm saying, I don't know, your brain has different electrical impulses. So the way you breathe affects that immediately. That is why it's so powerful to change the rhythm of breathing, because it changes the frequency of your brain. That's like the life hack, not to talk more about biohacking, but that is the hack. You hack right into your nervous system from changing a rhythm that is easy, like doing 8 push-ups, 12 push-ups, 16 push-ups. You just do it with your breathing, the ratio. So you can alter your state of mind or your consciousness or your awareness immediately. If you just think about your breathing, you have already moved from unconscious, not thinking about it, no awareness, to being conscious. Like I mentioned before, the name of, not to sell my damn book, it's free online, but you can buy it on Amazon. But the name is Breatheology, the Art of Conscious Breathing. I put that very consciously in the headline, because that's the whole point of my book. It's not a breath book just about breathing. It's about breathing with awareness, with consciousness. So just changing your breathing changes your consciousness. Now I think I know what you're asking me about. How can you change it so much that you travel somewhere or feel very differently? Isn't that what you mean? Like different colors or different universes, or when you were born or stuff like that? Then I would look into schools like Stanley Gruff, Selv tak. Rebirthing. Rebirthing is also a lot of hyperventilation, a lot of mouth breathing, a lot of different things. And I've trained with Stanley Gruff and his late wife, Christine, who's now in the eternal heavens. So I've been in California. I've been with many of these different schools. I've always been curious. I would look into Stanley Gruff and holotropic breathwork for you. I think that would be very, very interesting. And he is a psychologist, and he's one of the founders also of the new movement. And he was taking LSD and drugs and trying all this in the 60s when the military did it, and tested all this and that. And then he found a way that with breath work, you could actually elicit some of the same responses, but just from not taking drugs. And I think that's an interesting thing to know, that you can change your mind so much that it could feel like you have been taking drugs. And then we can go into the DMT and all this release, but Mads maybe has something. But I think, go in that direction, and again, with respect of the process and not going too fast into it. That's my best advice, for you. And then breath holding, of course. You go in all these journeys because you're holding your breath, so it's like a hardcore way, but only do it safely. You can do it at home. Take the 7-day breath hold challenge I did, and then after 1 month, you have, maybe tripled your breath hold. You can go past 4 or 5 minutes, and then you start to be able to go to some of these journeys, many other places. Yeah.
Right. One last question.
I think this is mainly towards Mads. I've followed you for a long time. I've noticed that you take like a lot of supplements.
No.
No?
No.
No.
It's okay.
Yeah.
No, that's Brian Johnson.
Yeah, okay.
I used to.
You used to?
Yeah.
You have stopped it all now?
No. I take some. I
Okay.
believe that,
Fair enough.
Go ahead.
But my question is, like, are you afraid of that when you take all of these supplements, that the body gets too attached to it? And like, if you are able to later on, when you're older or something, can stop again, if that, will the body regulate itself?
Well, there are some things that the body produces itself, and like creatine, for example. We have to be careful about how much we take. Other than that, well, I'm not into artificial supplements. So like the multivitamin pills you get up in your pharmacy or supermarket or whatever. I'm like into whole foods, natural supplements. So I take like cod liver oil, for example. I take beef liver capsules. I take magnesium which is kind of like a artificial supplements. But mainly, I would suggest that you get what you can get from nature, like the cod liver oil, for example, because then you're on the safe side, and then you cannot overtake it. But synthetic vitamins, I would be careful with. But in terms of your question, only those things that the body produces itself, I would be careful about taking too much, because you can, in rare cases, stop the body's natural production, if that was answer to your question.
Yeah, it was.
Perfect. And one more, yeah.
So, what can I do to improve my nervous system when I'm at my highest rate, when I'm, for example, doing martial arts or any cardiovascular exercise?
Who is the question directed to?
It was directed to, it could be both of you, because, yeah.
Well, big question. I'll try to be brief because
Can we have the question one more time, because I'm not entirely sure what you meant.
So, what can I do to improve my nervous system when I'm at my highest rate, when I'm doing a cardiovascular exercise? What can I do
So
to
improve nervous system? What do you mean by that?
like when so I don't fall out of rhythm when I'm at my highest heart rate?
Yeah, okay. So you basically ask how to downregulate when you're at your max
Yes, or
peak capacity.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess we both have some useful inputs to that. Stig covered it earlier with the parasympathetic breathing methods, which can be the long exhalations. It can be something as simple as nose breathing, because then you're lowering the pressure, which sends a signal to the heart to slow down. So we can turn it around and say, what's the worst thing you can do for your nervous system? That is upregulating, that is mouth breathing, that is hyperventilating. So you want to downregulate. I use mouth tape myself when I train to make sure that I only use my nose, because that will send a signal to my parasympathetic rest digest nervous system to keep being activated. So my heart rate keeps being as low as possible, and then you can endure for longer times, right? We can also do breath retention during physical exercise, where we learn to do more with less, tolerate CO2 more effectively. So you do your exercise without breathing. Of course, you can only do that for 10 or 15, maybe 20 seconds. But over time, that will enhance your ability to do better with what you already have in your lungs, right? So do the techniques that enables you to downregulate when you are at your peak capacity. Does it make sense? Great.
Yeah, great response. I think also, I still don't think I understood the question. Is it when you do the martial arts, or is it when you're running or in the gym? Sparring, for example, in taekwondo or whatever you do. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so very, very high demand oxygen training, like running. Yeah. So obviously, you should, like Matt said, nose breathing is nose breathing, but there are many ways you can use your nose, be more aware and open the nostrils and then also the rhythm of your breathing. So you should see if you could. I had a lady ask me before, she came up here in the break before when you were outside, but about running. Oh, I wish you, yeah, about running. So I've taught hundreds of people how to use the nose better for running, because you should always use the nose. But obviously, at some point, you hit your VO2 max. You hit the capacity where you need to breathe with your mouth, because you need more air, because you're not supplying enough oxygen for your either arms or legs if you're sparring. Sparring is like boxing. Tack, 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 tack. So then you must, like I said in the beginning, you can do both nose and mouth, because you still want to see if you can have the nitrogen oxide and the benefits, because the nitrogen oxide is a vasodilator. The nitrogen oxide, I don't know if you know what it is, but it's a gaseous molecule in your sinuses. When you use the nose, it comes into your lungs and it helps you take up more oxygen. You can measure it with the pulse oximeter, but also it is a vasodilator in your whole cardiovascular system. It's the same as Viagra, if some of you have heard of that one, like these blue pills. So it's something that will open and widen the blood vessels. It's in a natural way now from the sinuses. The Nobel Prize was given to the scientists discovering this about 18 years ago, the effect of nitrogen oxide. So I would really focus on soft, smart nose breathing. So not just breathing in, like soft and getting it in and opening your nostrils so you get more in. You could also use a sports tape or this nose bridge tape. And then see when you can resort to mouth breathing or nose breathing to see if you can be just below your VO2 max, which is just before you have the lactic acid, right? So just before you have that, ventilate in a way so that you can keep going longer. And I would also look more into the pranayama exercises, because that's the first thing I thought about when I heard your question. I misunderstood it a little bit maybe in the beginning. So if you want your nervous system to fire more accurately and faster and at a higher rate, there are several studies, scientific studies, showing that if you do the different pranayama ratios, different breathing exercises, you strengthen the nervous system response. So the speed of the nervous system and your hand grip strength, also a scientific paper on that, hand grip strength from doing just different breathing exercises, because you activate the nervous system in a more efficient way. So those are things I would look into. And then, of course, I would really, really recommend diaphragmatic breathing and all these stretches so that you utilize every breath optimally. Especially for martial arts, you also want impact and power in your kicks and in your blocks. And if you do that with a more soft diaphragm, even softer fascia, but also softer movements, and which is the whole point of martial art, right? Then you'll also use less energy and you'll hit that threshold, that VO2 max later, meaning you will win and not your opponent, because you can go a little bit longer. So I think that's kind of covering 3 or 4 or 5 things you can go home and do today, and then measure on it. Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
I guess that was it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for bringing a Sunday afternoon out here. Spending it with us for 3-4 hours.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And thank you for coming, Stig.
Thank you very much.
And
welcome.
Again, Stig out here was...
Because there was a guy who wanted a signature in the book he bought many years ago. I'm happy to do that. And if you wanted a picture, that's fine. And then there were a few people who wanted to hear more about the online training, the education where you can get certified.
Yes.
So I'm staying around for the next 15-20 minutes so we can discuss that, and any questions you have related to that. Or maybe you didn't know I have a training certification program, but if you're curious, just ask me. Then I can explain what it is. And then I guess in 20 minutes, we wrap it up, something like that. I don't know about you guys, but probably close.
I mean, we'll also be staying for a bit. And then, thank you guys for coming.
Yeah. Thank you so much.